second.
The City of Southfield regular meeting conducted as a committee of the whole. Let's come to order, April 21st, 2026, at 5:30 p.m. Mr. Clerk, if you can please perform a roll call.
Yes, Councilwoman Banks.
Present.
Councilwoman Bland.
Here.
Councilman Brightwell.
Here.
Councilwoman Pro Tem, nope. Councilwoman Haynes.
Present.
Councilwoman Pro Tem Hogue.
Here.
Councilman Mandelbaum.
Present.
Council President Hicks.
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum.
Yes, sir. Communications. The City of Southfield City Council has established the following rules and procedures for all speakers. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council. Each speaker is responsible for his or her comments, and the City of Southfield does not, by permitting such remarks, support, endorse, or accept the content thereof as being true or accurate. No speaker may make personal or impertinent attacks upon any officer, employee, or city council member or other elected official that is unrelated to the manner in which they perform their duties. No person shall use abusive or threatening language towards any individual when addressing the council. Any person who violates this section shall be directed by the presiding officer to be orderly. If a person addressing the council refuses when so directed, such person may be deemed by the presiding officer to have committed a breach of the peace by disrupting and impeding the orderly conduct of the public meeting of the city council, and may be ordered by the presiding officer to leave the meeting. If the person refuses to leave as directed, the presiding officer may direct any law enforcement officer who is present to escort the violator from the meeting. The council may not provide responses to public comments during the meeting. If you have provided your contact information when you signed up for public communication, the city will provide a more formal response to you in the near future should it be needed. The council may respond to comments at the end of the communication if there is a reason. Yvonne Allen, please come to the podium, state your name and whether you're a resident for the record.
Yvonne Allen, 18440 Alta Vista Drive. Good evening, everyone, council member and mayor. My concern is about priority waste. We're having issues with our subdivision. I think that there needs to be a resolution for our subdivision. I think that the residents in our area, we should not have to always contact the mayor. We really appreciate the mayor's immediate response when we have issues. However, that now that we're coming to a season where we have a lot of waste that need to be picked up for seasonal type of things, I think that the supervisor or whoever the person is, the on-site person, needs to come and check around the areas and make sure they have enough trucks to pick up the load, that we do not have to have our garbage sitting out there for days for pickup. Again, it happens all the time during April and then again during fall when leaves. They need to have some type of plan of action in our areas. When I first moved in Southfield 30 years ago, we never had this issue, but now it's become an ongoing problem. Again, I want to say I really appreciate the help when I always email the mayor. He's always on it, but we shouldn't have to always contact the mayor for resolution. Thank you.
Ida Williams, please state your name for the record and whether you're a Southfield resident.
Ida Williams, and I am a Southfield resident. I live in Northland Gardens. Good evening to the esteemed council, our mayor, and everyone present. At the public hearing prior to last night, when Northland was asking, or the developers for that site, we had a discussion on the dome, and that was voted down. The developers were less than professional. They stormed out, and I think that what they did was very disrespectful to our council and to the residents of Southfield, and I believe I feel they owe us an apology.
Lisa Davis, please come to the podium, state your name and whether you're a Southfield resident for the record.
evening, Council President, Council members. My name is Lisa Davis. I'm a resident of Southfield and a business owner and a founding member of Southfield Community for Growth Coalition. I come with one question: what is in the dirt? On 125 acres in the heart of the city, mountains of soil from the Northland Mall demolition sit exposed to the wind. Investigative reporting by Michigan Enjoyer, Detroit Metro Times, the Detroit Office of Inspector General has documented soil contaminated with mercury, lead, chromium, cadmium, arsenic, and PAH at levels described as too toxic for direct human contact. Of 41 sites randomly tested, 33 failed state residential safety standards, more than 80%. The Detroit Police Organized Crime Bureau has reportedly referred to its findings to the state and federal authorities, and when asked where the Northland dirt went, Contour Development told the reporter, I quote, "I just paid truckers to move the dirt. I'm not sure where they may have taken it." That is not an acceptable answer. Not when the dust blows over our neighborhoods. Not when our children breathe it. Not when our seniors live next to it. And that is only part of the story. We have been told that Northland may not fully built until 2050. $20.1 million of public funds have been advanced to Contour Development under the 2023 restated Brownfield Plan, with no bonds and no guaranteed repayment. And in August, Contour Development Northland City Center 1 was quit claimed to Northland City Center 2 for $10. $10 for the most important redevelopment site in this city's history. Tonight I ask this council to do 4 things. 1, demand independent environmental testing of the entire Northland site. 2, pause all further amendments, rezonings, and approvals tied to this project until that testing is complete. 3, order renewed due diligence on every entity on title after the $10 transfer. 4, commit publicly tonight to a transparent, competitive RFP for a qualified developer who can deliver housing in years, not decades. Southfield will not be the new Flint, Michigan.
Joseph Person.
That's okay, President.
And Bill.
Good evening, everyone. I have a very long history with this city, and I am appalled when people have to come to a meeting and film themselves on video while they're speaking. I am appalled that anybody would get up here and talk about how a developer acted when our city officials did not display the standard at the previous meeting. We have 2 new council people, relatively new, that was there, had no idea in 2015 when we purchased the property that we had one of the most famous planners in the United States and in the world, Robert Gibbs, that came and did a visioning session. All these council members were concerned about was the race of the developer. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? When you were a civilian, not on city council, you had an opportunity to be at this hearing, this visioning session. And it was several hours I was there, and you guys were not there. So whatever we decided that we wanted at that time, this is what's happening at Northland. I am sick and tired of all this bantering, this disrespect, this agenda, hidden agenda, posturing to run for office. Let it go. We don't want that. We want business to be conducted here. We want people, all people, from council, from the audience, to respect each other. We are old enough, mature enough, have a lot of business experience for it to be that way. And all of this volleying back and forth, making it a point to try to cut my time off, you can't stop me. Because if I don't say it here, I will go to the media and say it. I know how to call a press conference. And I think it's disrespectful that the media would be here speaking to council, not council collectively, instead of the mayor. He is the ambassador of this city. Traditionally, the mayor has done all of the interviews. So if you're trying to get some popularity, notoriety, posturing to run for mayor in the future, Don't do it at the expense of the people. Stop this. Respect what these developers are telling you. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. Pay your taxes, and we can do what we need to do. Cut it out.
That concludes communications.
Ms. Williams? I just want to clarify, it wasn't the developer that made those comments, it was someone in support of the project. But I wanted to be fair that it wasn't the developer himself. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you though. Thank you.
Ms. Adams, we will follow up on your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Items to be discussed. Item A, discuss Northland Punch List. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, staff and the administration has prepared, working with our consultants, I'll introduce in a moment, a number of summaries pertaining to the Northland project, project history, financing. Within this discussion, we'll be discussing the site infrastructure, phase 1, part of phase 2, site soil stabilization for both phase 1 and phase 2, site security, fencing, future developments, sale of 8 acres of the parcel, as well as the sports dome and 2 other of the pads that are around the original Hudson's building that are being discussed for development. Tonight we have with us Grant Williams from Miller Canfield, the attorney who worked on the agreement back in 2015 through present. Neil Silver, long-standing environmental attorney, worked on this project all along. Neil grew up here in Southfield. And then we have Jeremy McAllen with AKT Peerless, who's been part of this project from the beginning. We also have Rochelle Freeman, our business development officer, Molly Lalone, our downtown development officer, Austin Michaels, our finance director, Lee Schultz, our city engineer, is also here, and Terry Crow, our city planner. I'm going straight down the line, deputy city administrator, and Karina, Parks and Rec is here as well. Terry Field and Steve Griffin. But I'd like to have, if we may, if Jeremy McAllen could start off with the PowerPoint presentation he's prepared to go through this, and then Grant Williams will turn to the turn. Bill Silver's here to answer legal technical questions pertaining to environmental issues.
Good evening, Mayor, Council President, and City Council members. Jeremy McAllen with AKT Peerless. Like Fred mentioned, been on the project for quite some time, and most recently on the brownfield incentive side. So what I wanted to do was just kind of give everyone an overview of the brownfield components of the project. This is a pretty large public-private partnership project, and began quite some time ago, but kind of wanted to make sure everyone's just familiar, starting with the same understanding of the project itself. Right here you can see the entire eligible property for the brownfield plan. Additionally, the brownfield plan is qualified as eligible both from functionally obsolete determination, facility because of existing contamination on the site and contiguous and adjacent. And the bulk eligible activities really fall in the non-environmental category, but there's also environmental eligible activities. So there are 2 kind of streams of funding sources to assist in with the incentive on this project. Your typical tax increment financing, which is with most all brownfield sites. This property was owned by the city, sold to the developer. The initial taxable value on the property started at 0. So any increased value from development or investment and the sale increases the taxable value. Additionally, when the original brownfield plan was approved, there was an interlocal agreement that shared the DDA captured millages with the developer to refund reimbursement of eligible activities. 85% of those captured funds would be used for reimbursement, 15% would go back to the Southfield DDA, and the remaining local, because there's some DDA millages, there's some local millages that aren't captured by the DDA, those local and state school taxes are captured for reimbursement as well. The other component is the city direct pay. Proceeds from the sale of property, insurance, and a city and sewer water fund are utilized to reimburse developer activities in the demolition, site prep, infrastructure categories. Those funds that are used to reimburse those activities are then repaid through tax increment financing to the city. CDP is kind of the acronym used for that. This is an approval timeline. So the original brownfield plan was approved back in 2017. That was a city-approved brownfield plan, city acting as developer, identifying 20 million in eligible activities that started allowing certain activities to be conducted on site, demolition, asbestos activities. Then when Contour came on board, there was an amendment to the brownfield plan that kind of coincided with the activated work plan, and that is a tool used that is sent up to Michigan Strategic Fund for use of school taxes for reimbursement of those non-eligible activities. Non-environmental activities, I'll get into what those are. And then we proceed forward to the last amendment of the brownfield plan in 2023, which was just expanding the property boundary and amending the reimbursement agreement. Here is a summary in the plan of essentially what activities are to be conducted under the brownfield plan. So above here are kind of the environmental activities. Pre-development activities are considered due diligence, your phase 1, phase 2 activities done before purchase of a site. Due care activities are pertaining to any environmental activities. Environmental insurance was used on the site by the city as well. That's an eligible expense to be reimbursed. And then you can see the 3 categories up top. City look back, those are activities conducted in that 2017 timeframe. Asbestos and lead and asbestos activities. City eligible is any future activities to be conducted. And then developer eligible activity are those activities that the developer would be conducting. And below here, we get into the non-environmental activities, which is the bulk of what is being done on site. Demolition, lead and asbestos, site prep, and eligible infrastructure improvements. And then other categories for contingency and development of the plans. Are there any questions so far? Okay, and then the bottom here are just other parts that are captured. The Southfield Brownfield Redevelopment Authority has an administrative fee, and then utilizing state school taxes, a portion goes into the revolving fund, and toward the end of the project, there's also a local revolving fund that capture to be used on sites like this in the future.
Could you,
yes,
just want to make sure that we're on the same understanding. City look back eligible, what is?
So, good question. So when we passed the brownfield plan in 2017, there are activities conducted after the brownfield plan was approved, but before the activated work plan was approved, where school taxes could be used to reimburse. So when we were working with MEDC, they allowed us to look back to that period and utilize additional millages to reimburse.
So that was the target demolition and all of the asbestos abatement that we did in various parts of
in the preparation.
Including with the fire and related to the fire
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Let me just bring up, I recall this, you guys, the AKK Pure, you're responsible for that county and pulling these numbers together, that's correct?
Correct. So we assisted on the front end of getting these plans together and getting them approved, and then also on the back end of reviewing eligible activity expenses, which is a couple slides down.
Great, great.
Any other questions? So this is just a further breakdown. It really kind of gets in here to establish the caps that are associated with the city direct pay amounts. Each one of these categories have a cap and a limit on them. Demolition with the contingency on there are split all of these totals to that 21 million number. And then essentially these activities conducted by the developer but repaid back to the city through tax increment financing. And then there's additional eligible activities for the developer that aren't in this category but are just considered traditional TIF eligible expenses paid for by the developer and reimbursed with tax increment financing as well. I'll show you how that's done. So this is the process that we've been going through essentially since after the MSF work plan, Act 301 work plan was approved in July of 2021. So essentially, the developer requests a CDP, City Direct Pay Draw, and also a TIF reimbursement that is submitted to the Southfield Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. AKT Peerless and OHM advisors have been reviewing these draws since the beginning because they include both brownfield eligible expenses. Well, the brownfield eligible expenses include demolition, infrastructure, public infrastructure, where OHM advisors is out ensuring public infrastructure activity is done appropriately as it should be done under city standards. There's a 30-day review period once these draws are received. We, AKT Peerless, Southfield Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, with the assistance of Neil as well, will provide a response. Those responses show any deficiencies, request further information, or identify what's been approved. So draw number 1 was submitted December 14, 2021. Draw 12, which is the last draw so far, the response was issued February 12, 2025. So a pretty long time horizon there. And within each draw, there may be multiple responses requesting additional information. So one draw might actually have a couple phases in one draw. So that's kind of the process for doing so. And then this down here shows you the remaining budget up to this point through that draw 12 of CDP, roughly $2.4 million, bulk of which was infrastructure improvements, around $50,000 left in public infrastructure, $2.4 million site prep, which is on-site soil management for backfilling, building pads, road stabilization, other on-site activities, and then the remaining TIF budget from those previous tables you saw for the developer is around $23 million. Okay, so the reimbursement process. So when taxes are paid, the disbursement to the city and the developer is based on a proportional share. That proportional share is the amount of eligible activities conducted or by the city and or the developer. So through tax year 2024, this is the last memo that was issued, 77% of the tax increment revenue available for disbursement goes to the Southfield. The remaining 22.7% goes to the developer, and that's based on the amount spent by each one of those entities. So here is a review of 2024 tax year's information. Taxable value currently at $17 million. Total TIF captured was around $1 million, so that's taxes that are eligible for brownfield, because not all taxes are eligible. Debt mills are not eligible for brownfield capture. So there's certain amounts, like I mentioned, the interlocal agreement, 15% to the DDA, the SBRA admin fee, and the state revolving fund, roughly equaled in 2024, $200,000, that's removed. Then the total available for disbursement is $831,889. City received $643,000, developer $189,000. I'll pause there.
Councilwoman Banks?
So, has the city received this money?
The TIF disbursement?
Yes.
Yes. So tax year 2023 disbursements have been made. Tax year 2024, I think the bulk of all those taxes have been paid to date.
You think? You think? 60? Yes. 600, yes. 643.
So the last look at 2024, there's some outstanding fees and interest to be paid on that when this was issued about 2 to 3 weeks ago. I'll have to double check if all of those have been resolved. Disbursement is not made to the developer unless all those are paid. That's written in the reimbursement agreement and our memos.
Okay, so the city has received,
Well, so
your knowledge, most of that.
most of that, yeah. So truly what happens is taxes are paid. We go through a process of reviewing. This is not only this brownfield site. We do this for all brownfield sites in the city. taxes are paid, go through a process of reviewing all these, making sure all of the appropriate millages are corrected for. There's also reporting that we have to do to the MEDC on that. And then there's a process to go through before disbursement is made. Part of that is ensuring taxes are paid. So disbursement on this has not been made to the developer yet.
So disbursement is typically running 9 months to a year after the close of the tax season.
Well,
The previous tax season?
Yes,
or the current?
Pardon?
So for 2024, you said it's 6 to 9 months after it closes?
After, which it closes in March.
Right.
And then 6 to 9 months after, we process those payments on pretty much all brownfields. Extensive look back, you're evaluating all millages, for the taxes paid, all taxing jurisdictions doing the breakouts, and then there's reporting to Treasury that happens as well on every plan.
So for the 6 to 9 months for 2024, we hit that around January of 2025, right? Is that correct? January, February?
Yeah, it's about the right time frame.
Okay, so the bulk of the money was dispersed around that time frame. And then for the outstanding fees and interest that we're not sure that we potentially got, does interest continue to accrue for as long as it's outstanding? How does that work?
Interest accruals on any parcel that hasn't been paid. So in this particular development, you have, this is a site condominium, and you have multiple pads.
Okay.
And if there's been if something's not been paid, then obviously we don't process any of the reimbursement.
Fred,
Okay.
I just want to,
Pardon?
6 to 9 months after the December taxes or 6 to 9 months after the?
No, after the December taxes, that period is the end of February. So after we close out, it's 6 to 9 months after that. So your closeout is March, and you're 6 to 9 months after that. I mean, that's pretty much how all of our reimbursements have been running. Within that
No, I just want to
time.
clarify because we're stopping at the what tax year?
So the December 31, 24 equalization date, summer of 25 tax bill, winter tax bill, your closeout would be end of February of 26. And
roughly.
March,
I mean, there's a
6 to
period,
9 months
there's a
after
settlement
that, you
period in
start
there too.
the process.
Yeah.
But nothing happens unless all taxes have been paid as part of that brownfield plan. I probably should have used as an example going back December 31st, 23 equalization date.
Okay.
So there's a point where taxes are paid and they're held before certain items are checked and reviewed, and then there's a process of disbursement as well. Because, like Fred mentioned, there's an equalization period as well each tax year. So if there's any changes in taxable value, which has occurred on brownfield projects that I've worked on, so we wait during that period to make sure that there's not a correction in taxable value, thus in turn, the amount captured for the brownfield authority would change as well. And then reviewing every reimbursement agreement to ensure everything in the reimbursement agreement is followed before the taxes received are dispersed, one of which is property tax payment.
I just want to verify something. I've seen receipts over the years, and we have, there's a record of receipt of funds. Is that correct? Okay, that's what I just wanted to make. I was looking at Austin, and it could have been directed to you, but we have a receipt of funds. So if there's a question about whether we have any funds available, have been received, we can go back and say they have been received. So yes or no, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, so in the response letter, we'll have identified the city direct pay amount to be dispersed, as well as the TIF eligible expense. And then, like mentioned, going through Fred, those recommendations are followed to Shelley and Fred on the Southfield Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Then the process, if there's a city direct pay amount, Fred issues that request, and then there's a tracking associated with the request being paid. With TIF, TIF eligible is just accumulation of, there's no actual disbursement with TIF until taxes have been paid. Any more questions? think we only have one more slide. So just to run some just rough assumption numbers here. So to date, the city direct pay is roughly around 17.7 million. If we took the taxable value on site right now, the payback of that amount with the proportional share being kept is roughly around the 27-year time frame. The brownfield plans last for 30 years of tax increment revenue capture, 35 years total with a period of no capture. And this is just an example of an increase in taxable value, and these are what was estimated in the brownfield plan, a continued increase in investment with this site itself over the years. Just showing a $10 million increase in taxable value yields another additional, again, assuming all these are same, was using 2024 mill rates, which they'll change over time. So that number drops to 16 years of payback for the city. Another 20 million total added, 11-year payback. So, and that's essentially how the mechanism for brownfield plans, how they work. The investment, the taxable value increases over time. The eligible activities that are within the brownfield plan, that payback starts to reduce as soon as those taxable values start to creep up. Any additional questions? Great, thank you very much.
Jeremy, are you able to bring up the other slide, just so that as we're talking, where we were, the term sheet, yes, the term sheet. Grant Williams is going to address, so as we've gone through this in content of if the dome is to be approved and recognizing the other items that I think council all received an email from a group that's looking to develop the pad immediately to the south of the dome. We received an email that spoke about a Highbury bar, restaurant, a physical therapy place that had a green turf surface that was using for doing training, and then there was a store. So if the dome is to move forward, what we took a look at was how do we address the wrap up of the site infrastructure in phase 1, and the dome itself sat on part of phase 2, and allowing us to complete that infrastructure in phase 1, phase 2 wrap around, and then the construction of the dome gave you a place to deposit the soils that are along the greenfield frontage. And all along in any brownfield plan, when we look at best practices, it's always about balancing your site. And as the environmental attorney will tell you, even the site we sold to the hospital, the soil, the environmental, had all the same conditions. It had the parking lot on it, and it had, and Neil will speak to those conditions, as we're finding with the dirt that we moved from the city road projects. Keep in mind, when we were taking this project on, we at the time thought we were doing a full demo. Then the project evolved to a partial demo. And we knew either way we needed a certain amount of dirt to balance that. So from our road projects, people's front yards, our right-of-ways, we removed dirt and stockpiled it at Northland. And at a later point, I'll ask the city engineer to speak about that. So I've asked Grant to...
I have a quick question because I don't think that it got answered. I know he said he didn't know how much money we didn't get paid yet in 2024. He said he would get that for us. I just wanted to be clear how that works. Like, would you be able, will you send it to the council as a whole? And then how do we know how much interest has accrued over that time? Just curious, so if we're back here next year, we know where we left off. You know what I mean? From a financial standpoint. Because he said he didn't know as far as how much of that 600 and whatever wasn't paid. He said there was still interest and fees. So I'm just curious, will he be able to get us that information?
We can, I want to make sure I understand the question.
Sure. I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, he stated that he couldn't let us know. Nancy asked if the whole $643,091 was paid for 2024. And he said he was not sure. He thinks there's still some outstanding fees and interest that's due. And so I was wondering when we would be able to find out how much the outstanding fees and what the interest that's accruing looks like.
The interest accruing is not on the reimbursement.
Agreed.
No, it's just,
No, this is
pays it-
on
taxes
a
not paid.
unpaid parcel, as with any taxpayer is going to be,
suffer
is going to
from
be
that,
accrued
for sure.
a penalty.
But the outstanding fees that we're owed, when will we find out how much that is? Just curious.
When the taxes are paid, he'll, in this case, they would be paid to Oakland County Treasurer.
Okay.
And we would get that, those funds would then come to the city.
Gotcha.
On these projects, the county does advance the taxes,
Okay.
okay? If there's a 3-year revolving fund that the county does advance the taxes, but we don't process the payment of reimbursement until those taxes are paid.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
I can answer the question real quick.
Sure.
So $3,330 have not been paid, were not paid as of April 10th, 2026. And David, developers here could probably answer if those have been paid now.
And part of that, I would attribute, it could either be a personal property tax assessment or the sheer number of site pads. When you look at, for example, the 2 buildings that are out, building A and B, they're pentagon shaped. So you got pad A, pad B, and you got pad C and D, then you got another pad. So this isn't one bill for the entire parcel. It's multiple, that's what a site condominium. The comments about the $10 transfer is about one of those pads being tied and transferred to a mortgage entity. And when you get into the financing, you've got on each site pad, you will have typically a construction loan and then some type of permanent financing. And sometimes the permanent financing is arranged before lease-up or after lease-up.
That helps, because I don't think, Nancy just said, I didn't know that, so that helps us, thank you.
All right. So what I'm explaining is, as we look toward the potential for authorizing a dome, there were some concerns. And so what we're proposing, and what we have proposed to Contour, is another amendment to both the ODD agreement and to the development agreement to kind of address some of those concerns that might hold us back from approving the sports dome. And so I just wanted to kind of summarize those, and this is the full term sheet with a whole lot of legal nonsense in it. But the idea is we would propose certain terms that would amend both the ODD and also amend the development agreement. And these are what we have proposed. Contour, of course, is going to respond, give us some feedback, and we'll finalize with them. But we're thinking in terms of things you need to get done before you even apply for a permit to put down the pads for the sports dome. We want to see these things done and complete before you even apply for a permit for constructing that pad. And then secondly, because some of the things that we want to get done really from a practical standpoint can't be done immediately like that, including putting all the dirt in where the sports dome would go as a soil balancing. We want to see all the rest of these things done before the city is going to issue any occupancy permit for that sports dome. So that's why I'm going to walk us through stuff we want to see done first before we even give you a permit to start work, and then the remainder that needs to be done prior to occupancy permit. So first of all, we want to see that taxes have been paid. And so we'll be looking for proof of that, showing us that the taxes on all the applicable properties have been paid. we're going to do we're proposing a review of funding, and if I summed it up, I may sum it up not perfectly correctly, but maybe this is a proof of potential funds. What term sheet do you have from lenders who are proposing takeout loans, as Fred had mentioned, permanent financing and that sort of thing? And we're still working on a little of the details about how that would look, but having a third party in place to be able to review those term sheets with respect to the potential funds. We want to know that there's a lender there that is offering at this point in time funding to make sure the project will get done. Site security. This has to do with the fencing, the security, the gating, making it look, and I'm a lawyer, I'm aggressive, right? So I put first-class facility, but we want it to look first-class, right? And so we've asked for them to give us a plan for how that fencing is going to comport with these various requirements. They actually have provided something, and Fred's going to be able to review that and see if that comports with what we need.
And Grant, if on site today, the fencing going out between buildings A and B, the back, and as you pull in the boulevard, that was one of the concerns we heard at this table. The poles are on site, and I personally saw the fabric of the fencing going in as well.
Kind of right along that same line, all the construction materials, where are you going to station that? How are you going to mobilize that? And all your construction equipment. We need to have that reflect, again, that concept of a first site, organized, put together. So they're proposing a plan, and that may be actually on what they sent us, and we're reviewing that. Landscaping. We want to make sure that landscaping isn't put in place. And so we have phase 1A, which has building A's, and then building B is what's being constructed next. So we have the landscaping for building A needs to be in accordance with the ODD. The landscaping for building B at that site will have straw mat, so there's no dust, so there's no dirt movement. The straw mat would hold that down. Then grass successfully seeded and growing along the south line for Greenfield Road to Northland Drive. Landscaping with wildflowers successfully seeding, again, holding all the soil in place along Northwestern Service Drive. And then landscaping, and I believe the trees are already there, so that's why we referenced those, the trees and the wildflowers along Northland Drive. So those are, getting the landscaping in place. And then this is the stuff that we want to see done prior to giving any occupancy agreement, okay? And part of that is to get the site infrastructure completed. Site infrastructure completed for phase 1, and then site infrastructure completed also for the dome. So everything would be done. And we know done means the city has had a chance to review and inspect and sign off on it. It's really important that we get the as-built drawings so we know where those sanitary sewer lines are, where the storm sewer lines are. And so the as-built drawings, as required by the code, they need to have those in before we would give the occupancy permit. And then soil stabilization. That is taking those dirt piles and using them for the foundations for the dome, so filling in the site so that they can build the dome. And then with respect to the dome, we would have, and they'll put together a depiction of how they would handle any soil stockpiles that result from the dome. Maintenance. Not only do we want to make sure that they get everything done before we issue the permits, but we also want to make sure that as development continues, this continues to be the pattern and practice and the requirements. So basically with this maintenance, it is the same thing. We're just saying you're going to continue to do this. As you start a new development, as you start new construction, you're going to maintain it, you're going to organize it, you're going to provide us a map that's going to show how the fencing will look and how the gating will look, so that we can approve it and we can say, yeah, that looks good. Or if we say, no, that doesn't look good, then we've got to resubmit until we say it is. Completing the landscaping in accordance with the ODD agreement. the soil stockpiles, always having a plan to keep those soil stockpiles leveled out, the soil balance, and providing us accurate as-built drawings. So same as we've said all along, this is what you're going to do. Well, now that you've completed the sports dome, it still applies to the remainder of the projects. And including, we would have the right to request, this is what we're proposing. We are proposing that we would continue to have the right to request, hey, show us the proof of your potential funding so we know where you are. And failure to do those would then be a default under the development agreement. So those are the terms that we have proposed. Of course, we're going to have to work with Contour to get those finalized, but that's what we proposed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is great. I appreciate all the work that's put into it. My question would be is once it is submitted to Contour and we get agreement, can we also ask them to possibly give us some timeline as to when they think they could get some of that done? I like it that you won't move to this date until it's completed, but we can also still ask, maybe give us an estimated timeline for some of this stuff as to when you think you can possibly get it done. And then I would like to see a status report back to us at some point, so that we can go back to the same document, that same proposed or estimated timeline, and ask them, how are you doing? So that we can stay on top of it. So I would like for us to maybe get from them first when they think they could do some of these things, and then let's build in a status update back to us where we could just stay on top of it. And then, and I know you haven't gotten agreement from Contour yet, but have they seen this?
They have seen it and they've sent comments, and so we'll have to review those comments and walk through it.
And this may be premature, but were there any comments relative to the sports storm? Like, does it look good for them relative to, for them moving forward with the sports storm meeting all of this?
I believe it did, and it's about the concurrency. Can they, filling the hole under the sports dome, removing the dirt. We have focused this on phase one, getting this through the pads turnkey ready. So the wrap up of the infrastructure on phase one, and then that pad gets delivered at the same time. It runs a concurrent course, but they can't actually build up until the ground is done. And there'll be engineering that needs to be submitted. There are a number of these things that can be ran concurrently. So.
And this lastly, I would be very anxious to see a proposed timeline, because I think in that area, certainly we need to get going with it, but even to all of that you've heard before, let's get it done. I think I shared at one of the recent meetings is that we need lighting over there too. We had the unfortunate situation over there, and so that all plays a part of it. So
within the DDA itself.
Are you asking for a timeline for just the dome or the comprehensive project?
This whole entire term sheet that they're doing.
So our term sheet focuses a timeline on phase one, and then phase two was the other one. And phase two is the northwestern front, and where the Costco was.
I think if we set up a timeline here for these, put something down.
Yeah, so this covers the timeline that would be a part of this term sheet, because we do have a timeline in the ODD and development agreement.
Well, what I was going to say is all of that needs to be taken into account when you do bring us back some bills, and nothing should be shifted unless we talk about it, so we don't get behind. But thank you again. Thank you, Mr.
Councilwoman Haynes?
I was in agreement with her about the timeline because, we are in Michigan. And there's only certain things that can go on at a certain time, so that is very, very crucial to, we want to hear that it's snowing now, So, just being logical, there has to be a plan for that time when that weather does change. Also, if asking for proof of funds, I just think it might be even fair just to say you have proof of employment. Do you have enough people to do the work? I think that would be fair to say, because I think for a building that size, then to be that empty and not see people working, if nobody's there, nobody's doing anything.
So
So I'm just saying, if you're gonna ask for funds, I mean, we have, I mean, I would think if you're asking about money, I think we need to be honest about the amount, we have enough people there to do work. I mean, I think that's even fair enough to say, you know. Because, you know, some jobs you say, hey, you know, my crew didn't come, my crew didn't show up. That's a delay. So are you fully staffed to do this? If you have the money, do you have the people to do it? And I think that's fair enough to say that, you know, because what we're dealing with here is we can't come back and say, this is not a small project where you say, well, I didn't have enough money, you know, so-and-so did this, and I didn't have enough guys. You know, we're on a serious timeline here, we're behind time, really. So I think we just need to be honest and fair about that. And also, just like when you get a credit card, there's a whole list of things that talk about the default. I mean, I think we need to have some terms of understanding what that means.
Yeah, so, and that's why we built in at the very end, failure to meet these obligations, because we do have terms for default under the development agreement. So we just go right there, something we've already agreed on and hammered out. So that's a really good point about having, well, what if you default? And so for the first thing, if you don't get it done, then you wouldn't get a permit to start the dome, or you wouldn't get a permit to occupy the dome. And then thereafter, it would be a default under the OD.
Because I would hate to say that, I mean, I would hate to not to default or have it against it, but the point is, okay, we don't have to come back to the table, okay, default, what are we gonna do now? That needs to be right there.
Yeah, and the development agreement has very specific terms about the city's rights under default.
And that's key, because we have had people, just like we just talked about a developer that wanted to do some work, and the company that did the work was not good, not solid. So that puts things behind, you know, so it's a very serious thing to look at.
And the brownfield agreement is cross-defaulted to the development agreement. So a default underneath the development agreement is also a default underneath the brownfield reimbursement agreement.
Councilman Burwell, then Councilwoman Banks.
Yeah, I just want to clear one thing with respect to the dirt. And then there's a lot of, when we first set up the dirt pile years ago, it was plus for the city, the drought benefit. And I keep getting questions, I'm kind of trying to answer citizen questions. So did we address in this presentation when the dirt is going away?
The dirt would be gone away. In other words, they would take the dirt piles that are there now and use them to fill in so that the dome could, the cement pads have, you know, they bring it in, pack it down, and then put the cement pads on. But then there might be another stockpile of soil as a result of building the sports dome, and then they're providing us a plan on how that would be removed.
And then in phase two, the northwestern piece, when you fill in the lower level of what was at the Macy's Hudson's, that's where the rest of that balances out. Now, recognize every time you dig a new foundation, you have another dirt pile. I mean, that's part of, you know, how these things typically work.
Right.
But if we get these pads done, you know, unless there's a place for the dirt to go, then it gets hauled off.
Okay, no, I get this question all the time. And I know we put the dirt there for a reason. It was beneficial to the city, whereas we didn't have to pay money at the time to haul dirt somewhere. I want this is a full clear for me, so I can answer that question. Okay, that was good. Thank you.
Great point.
Okay. Councilwoman Banks?
Where in the outline that was presented, does it talk about the completion of the apartments or condos going up right now? Seems like we're focusing on the dome, but has the generator been received so we can use the elevators? What's the timeline on the two buildings?
We have in the development and ODD timelines for them to complete those buildings. So I don't know that we separately addressed that here, where we put in a date for the buildings to be done. Well, we do have, so we could, In other words, if we're gonna amend the dates that are in the development agreement and ODD, we would need to do that with this third amendment.
Yeah, I think it's real important that that be involved in the third amendment. Also, it just seems like we're doing a lot of changes and amendments to this whole plan. Maybe we need to bring the whole plan back before this council, review what was originally approved. Is this still realistic? Is it not realistic? And if it's not realistic, what can we do to make this a beautiful site? Because looking back, I think what we originally proposed is not going to happen there.
We originally had a concept.
Right, the
You know,
concept.
everyone believed that there would be a high degree of fluidity.
Right.
We had, market research done, completed by the DANC organization, that X number of apartments could be supported. There was also 250,000 square feet of retail. I mean, this plan, for example, our first plan didn't have a Costco in it. And one of our first amendments was for the Costco. Now we've been approached by another large retailer who's looking to acquire the 8-acre parcel that the city has. It's the one piece we still own over there, and we own it because there's a shared parking easement with the group that owns the Sharona building and the Half building. So as we look at, there could be another plan amendment for that retail piece that comes in there. And Contours has approached us about acquiring the 8-acre piece for the same price we had the last time, plus $30,000 for our legal cost consideration, what we've incurred in legal fees, so that as they work with this national retailer to move that piece forward. But I think you're right. I mean, there will be more evolution on this plan as we go through. The dome was not part of the original plan. The original plan didn't show the northeast corner where the power plant is as the clubhouse and tennis courts, and at that point the earlier plans didn't have all of those site amenities, and now we're seeing a plan that shows that. So I think every time our planning department is in front of us, we're looking at this plan, and as the market drives it, how true can we be to our original concept? And there are some of us internally in my administration, we talk about the greenfield wall. Can we build that urban scape in phase 1, and phase 2 takes on a different look. So that's part of this evolution on this plan. And, I look at it, Costco, we weren't planning on it.
Right, but I know we originally, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was it 8 or 10 apartments or condos originally?
15 buildings.
15. There's no way there's going to be 15 condo buildings there. We can't get the 2 up.
And
how are we going to get the 15 up?
well, the two were happening, and but we also went through getting DT to get the transformers here. The transformers are here. So the elevators are now in. And Molly you got a copy of the invoice on the generator. It's been ordered.
But why is it taking so long? We were told back in, was it May, when we were there last year, or no, maybe it was September?
June 17th.
June 17th. In fact, I remember going out and standing on the pad where the generator was going to be. And at that time, it was coming within the next few weeks.
The transformer's in. I mean, that's a DTE item.
There was a transformer?
That's a transformer. The generator's necessary for the backup system for the elevator.
Okay, I apologize. Okay.
If you walked in the lobby today, there's artwork hanging. When I was last in the lobby, the mailboxes have not been delivered.
Okay.
But no one will move into that building till it has a C of O. let me just also make this statement. This is a mixed-use building. You have retail on the first floor and apartments living to it. If you talk to the communities in southeastern Michigan that have been built mixed use, there's certain things with the fire code that are challenges. For example, when Ferndale did the live work units on Hilton Road, their department had issues with fire suppression and things like that because you're retrofitting this white box for a commercial use. These are things that your suburban communities don't have a lot of experience when you have residents living on top of a retail or a commercial use. We have buildings that are all commercial uses, and Chuck can talk to you about some of the challenges with that white box.
So, a couple of questions. Kind of piggybacking off of Councilwoman Banks. Certified project manager. Every project has a beginning and an end based on the business case where you seek funding. What I haven't seen is the updated end-to-end work plan that supports getting 2 buildings to 15 buildings by a date. I haven't heard, I'm hearing various dates of completion, 2030, 2050, but I haven't heard where we are today based on, to your point, the fluid changes. If there was no dome, what's the plan for the dirt? I mean, I think we're jumping ahead talking about the sports dome when we haven't talking end to end. How do we get the original plan or modified plan to done? I think that would give council some comfort. You know, we're not trying to micromanage the developer. We just want information as to when, because we're getting asked all the time what's going on. And then there's been a lot of conversation regarding the dirt. You know, again, if there is no dome, and if that's going to be a foundation somewhere, why hasn't it, or when is the plan to move that dirt to where it's supposed to go? There's been a lot of noise about the current state of the dirt. Is there a plan to have that dirt tested so that we can eliminate some of the noise that's happening? There's a lot of discussion on, even last night, about an alleged asbestos dust floating from the dirt. Again, can we have the dirt tested so we can have that discussed? When we talk about default, and there's terms and conditions, there was a punch list that the administrator had of certain things that were outstanding. I mean, I guess I'm not totally clear, do we have a plan to address all of those punch list items? And are there other items that would align to default? And if default, if default does occur, what's the process for remediation and what are the next steps related to that? Does the city take back the property? Does the city, what does default look like? And what are our things that we can do if that were to occur? Now, I think we want the development. I don't think anybody does not have a desire to have it complete, but to your point, it's been fluid. There's been changes, and we're having discussion on the existing change. You know, we talk about the term sheet for the sports dome, but there were other items that were lifted that were questions and or concerns from council. You know, one was have the people who live in close proximity, not just that 350 degree, but the people who physically are going to have to see the dome, have there been discussions with them to say what it is, how we're going to be a good neighbor? I haven't heard any updates on there. There were concerns on, not saying that it has to be a total brick and mortar, but are there some compromise that can occur to make it more aligned with the design of the proposed Northland? So that's not dictating it has to be this, but I believe that communication and collaboration could bring some consensus or compromise so that may make it more palatable to move forward with that effort. So, I mean, I think that we still have a lot of outstanding questions that we have not addressed, which I thought this meeting was going to dig into all things and all concerns related to Northland for us to get moving forward.
Neil Silver can speak about the environmental items, Mr. President. I believe that these terms address and position the city in phase one in the event there is a default. Because in the end, you want to get this infrastructure in and have these pads ready to go. You're going to have certain pads that will be encumbered by lenders, where the two buildings are, the cost goes out of the equation, but the other pads, what assets would you have that could be marketed? And could they be marketed to another entity to come in and build an apartment? Or could they be marketed for some entity to build a one-story medical office building? That would be, so that, this has been structured that in that phase one, you're completing the infrastructure and your pads there in the event something happens to the developer, you have a product that there would be an extensive legal fight. So, and if Neil could talk about the dirt itself and what we know.
Well, one more thing before we get there. You know, again, with any project, I have to have funding. If I were to buy a house, if I were to buy a car, the one thing they're going to verify is my credit and if I have money to pay for it. Are the funds available to continue on with completion of this effort? Yeah.
Well, I wasn't really, I was going to motion. No, I was going to motion and say that a lot of the contour is present in the audience, and and we could have them, bring them up and specifically address those concerns. But with respect to,
Just one, I'm sorry, I mean, Pro Tem, you got a question for me?
Yeah, kind of piggyback on what you said. So where Macy's was and the downstairs where there's
Furniture was in the
Yeah.
old marketplace.
Is there a reason why we just can't level that up? Or do you just have to wait for, because regardless to what's going to be there, we've got to level it off.
we don't know.
Well, the answer is if we know what's going to be there, it's literally considered a best practice, then we could start leveling. But if we knew what's going to be built there, for example, the Costco, we had demoed the Target. Part of the soil there had to be pulled up again to hit certain compaction levels. But you could do part of it. I mean, you can talk, but once you know what's going to be built there, then you can start leveling that dirt. And it's a process. You're going to stage, break up the parking lot.
I just wanted to know why.
Yep.
So that's fair. That makes sense. It's just, I just want to know why.
I was just going to add, we don't own it. So we can't do.
I know that. Convince them. Why we couldn't convince them to level it.
But.
You want to talk about soil?
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy's been brought it up. I mean, there's no secret that soil has heavy metals and some PNAs in it. It's obvious why. First of all, in the state.
PNA.
It's a petroleum type of product. It's a heavy petroleum product.
I'm not smart.
You're probably carbon. Because these came from road projects that were covered by asphalt. And if I were to go out here and take a shovel of dirt anywhere in the city, I am going to find every one of those metals because they are naturally occurring. God made arsenic and put it in the ground, and as well as cadmium, chromium, they're lead, they are there. It's the question of at what level and how much is there, and the state comes up with, they have scientists, and I'm not saying that this isn't above the cleanup criteria, it is, because the state establishes certain levels. But what they do is an environmental attorney, is very difficult because they change those numbers on a day-to-day basis, because they have a scientist sitting in a back room and he takes an assumption that for residential direct contact numbers, an assumption that a child lives in the same home for 70 years and plays in that dirt 8 hours a day. Is that I think so, Jeremy, isn't it?
Don't quote me on
Yeah,
that.
but
I'm
it,
a sign-up guy now.
it's, and so they say at that, if you have that kind of cumulative contact with it, then it is above a number. And so these are all based on scientific, the scientists in the back, and they have a different one for commercial cleanup criteria, which is higher because then the assumptions are that you work from 9 to 5, and you're 5 days a week, and so those numbers are higher, and industrial's even higher than that. They allow more to stay. The Eagle's preference, especially on a brownfield site where incentives are involved, is not dig and haul. They do not want soil just taken to a landfill because it's their money, it's the state's money that's part of this. Under the 381 work plan portion, the state's given its school tax dollars to be used for reimbursement. They would rather see the soil reused in a safe manner on site rather than just taken, lifted up, and paid to take it to a landfill someplace else. And so best practices, is what we're saying is, they can do what they want with it. Again, it's not our site, right? It would be to reuse it, cover it with the appropriate cover, and not haul it off-site, because then you're just filling a landfill.
So to that point, most entities put FAQs on their website, especially when there's a lot of attention and noise related to certain issues. Everything you said makes sense, but I think if it can be explained, the facts, that it's been tested, this is our plan, and it's going to be done by X, that could kill a lot of unnecessary noise when you provide information.
Disagree.
So
Yeah, that has to be answered because we keep getting it as if like we don't know what we're talking about and all the experts are behind us talking to us. So, we need to nip in the bud what's not true. Like you said, some of it's natural. And some people may not understand that as being natural. So just even explaining that and just reassuring them of the truth of what is really going on.
And I'm not telling you that it's some of it's not unnatural. I don't know. I know that
Well, we want to know the answer. What we're saying is, can we get answers? Because we have to answer, and that's all we're saying.
If you ever walk through an apple orchard, arsenic, off the chart, arsenic.
Even in the apples.
Yeah, in the apples, there's arsenic.
I get that that's true. He always interrupts me. He doesn't know. The thing is that,
I just agree with you.
I'm sorry. We get all that. The issue is though, the apple orchards, they don't have a responsibility to residents. We do. So we need to validate what is there to say that we've done our due diligence. That's all. Please don't blame us for wanting to reassure our residents that it's okay. We can understand all of that. We had a discussion with Monty, and you had said, well, bad dirt is good. Well, remember I said, we don't want to say that. And the thing is, that's not what everyday Joe Blow and Jane Blow wants to know. They want us to say the current leaders, administration, all that, let's validate today where we are.
I believe.
And we I don't know, we don't have to ask him. We need to do it. We just need to say, we're gonna do it, we're gonna pay it, and how are we gonna do it?
I guess what I was gonna say is, we have the analytical data. I mean, it's been tested several times.
From one point though.
When the soil was brought over, when they bought the property from us.
How long ago?
To say 2020.
And in your professional experience, you're saying that testing, I promise this is it, that testing is valid to say it's okay today. There's not environmental, with it sitting there, that should we not do a more updated test? And I know you asked that, but again, you say we have the data. We haven't given it currently to our residents. That's all.
Okay. The metals, if you had something like dry cleaning solvent or something like that, those levels will change because it breaks down into breakdown components, that breakdown components to breakdown components to breakdown components. When you're talking about heavy metals, they don't break down. So the data that we have says it's above direct contact, and it's up to the developer to exercise due care with respect to that soil.
And that's what the developer needs to say that he's doing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
So, having shopped at Northland since the early 60s, there were 10,000 parking spaces there. And I can remember them laying new asphalt on top of existing asphalt on top of existing. So of course, that's going to leach into the ground. I'm glad you're bringing this out, that this stuff occurs everywhere. So and I agree with Ms. Hogue that we need, people want to hear answers. But I also think it needs to be framed in the broader sense so that it's not a panic situation, it's realism. A couple of other observations about all of this. Originally, when in December of 2015, the city took possession of the property. In 2016, we did the visioning session, and we hired consultants and market studies and all of that. And it all came back, we wanted a city within a city. And did I think that those models that were created were all going to become reality? Of course not. It's like you build a budget. Every year we have a city budget. What do we end up doing? We have to amend it because times change, things change, needs change, emergencies happen. So I don't think to hold Contour to the original model, part of it is who's willing to invest there. Again, it took 7 years back and forth with Costco to end up there. They were going to go to Oak Park, they were going to go here, they were going to go there, and it went back and forth, change of leadership. And are we glad we got Costco? Absolutely. Are we glad we're getting a second Costco? We're elated. And there'll probably be issues there because they're taking down 2 buildings and a parking lot. But anyhow, so yes, 15 buildings were originally planned. It's going to be less than that because of the Costco. There was talk of making a couple of the buildings larger. We really want to see, and I know our planner agrees and our city administrator, we do want that urban wall on Greenfield. We have 2 buildings that started. We wanted that to continue.
But is it feasible?
Well, I think it's feasible. I just don't know if Contour can do it. That's all. Like you and everybody around this table, we're all frustrated with the promises that have not been kept. We've been told over and over again. I mean, originally people were going to move in there last June when we did the site tour, June 17th. Oh, we're going to have people living here in the fall. Then it was going to be January. We're now halfway through April. And to Grant, I think this is excellent, what you've outlined. It captures our present concerns, but it also is the timing of the rest of this. We want to see the work done. And we're all tired of being asked, well, what's going on with Northland? We get this question all the time. So, but one of the most important things in there that you're requesting is the as-built drawings. That is extremely important. You can't have people living in a building and we don't have the as-built drawings. We need to know where those utilities are. and the sanitary and water lines and all of that. And we need to have an assurance that people can live in these apartments. So that is really, really critical. Besides the issues with leveling the site, maintaining, those are all important things, but one of the most important things to me is the as-built, and we don't have them yet.
So Mr. Mayor, to a couple of your points, I definitely agree, projects change over time, budgets get amended, but again, as a person who's implemented projects, there's amendments, there's revised work plans, there's revised scope, and then there's still an updated estimated completion date.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So it's not at you, it's more for,
I think it just said.
Well,
that's what I'm asking.
that's the issue.
But that's what we said for this, we'll get statuses so we can stay on top.
But I feel like we're doing somebody else's homework, but we're telling them what to do, which they could have done and given to us, and that is the larger part. We're actually giving back something that should have been given to us, and we're taking our time to do that. What we should be, we own the second Costco. The second Costco will probably get completed before what? Okay, there's a problem here, and we need to address that, and so we just can't keep kicking the can down the road, assuming that, we had whole 3 people came up here and talked. We had a video that we did in June. Where's that video to show? That's proof, evidence for what was said was being done. I said there was a window that was broken when I was there. They said, well, they were putting in windows. Those windows were all up. It was when it just almost like it's dismantled. So you're talking about a dome that we had a whole discussion on what we aren't doing, that somebody else could probably complete before the apartments get completed. So, I can understand the other phase over there getting that done and not knowing what that is, that's fine, but we know what this is supposed to be. What is happening here and why isn't it done and what is the problem? It's almost like, when you have someone to do a project, look, what's happening here, can you give me all the details? We're saying this is what we want. This is what should have been given to us. I'm not a builder, I'm not a contractor, but I got enough sense to know that some things need to be completed in a timely manner, we need to know.
so if we, Dr. Paul, if I'm out of order, please correct me. Bishop, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. The developer is here. I don't want to talk at you. I'd rather have a conversation.
I'm more than able and willing to answer any questions. Good evening, everybody. We can first probably start with the elephant in the room, which is the dirt piles. And these piles have existed prior to Contour taking over the site. To Neil's point, we had a plan of action on to use as much of the dirt as we could, because we do not want to take them off site. And if you all remember, there was a J.C. Penney on that site, which was close to 300,000 square feet. We dismantled demolition that project, and there was a basement underneath there that now houses over 100,000 square yards of that existing soil that was on site. Same goes with the Costco that Fred mentioned. We used a lot of the dirt on site to balance the Costco pad, which was actually extended, was extended because when we acquired the site, we did not own, the city did not own the Vibe Credit Union. After the purchase after Contour purchased Northland, we acquired Vibe Credit Union and combined these parcels so we could fit this Costco that was out there for many, many years. That was part of our plan. These plans do change. I don't say that our project has been perfect. I stand behind it more than anybody on earth because I'm the one that's signing those guarantees with the lenders. I'm the one that's standing in front of you today. I can say that in October of 25, we got power to the site. Now we're able to finish and go through, and I've invited you all in the past, and I would love to have you again to see where we are in that first building. But advances have been made. The project is coming to a complete in the first building. The reason behind a window being out, it was not broken. There's a row of windows that's out for deliveries and to take drywall and other items inside the building. But again, I'm happy to answer any more questions because I am here with you, for you. This has been a public-partner relationship since day one. I believe in this site. I do think that we can scale it to maybe 13 or 14 buildings. I do believe that the retail portion will succeed. We have done probably over 200 plus drawings for different users and operators to come into the site. We understand that everybody had a vision here, a walkable downtown, a city within a city. And if you go in this market, most developments of this side or most malls are outlots. You know, big box up front, parking lots up front. We have many of those items that are many of those users that would like to have space on our site, and we've pushed those away. We've tried to bring in sports users, to bring in family, to bring in more life to the site. We believe that there's a need for hospital users to have medical care, urgent care, that all comes in line with the mixed use of the development. But I'm here, any questions?
As-built drawings.
We've started the process with Lee and her team. Those actually are being completed. So if you go through this list, this list was circled back about 2 weeks ago, I'll say, Grant. And a majority of those items already have been completed. We've been moving dirt piles off of Greenfield from the phase 1. That's all dirt that was excavated from roads, excavated from building pads. That's going to be reused on the site. So when you're talking about a 100 plus 120 acre site, there's a lot of land balancing that has to be done. Whether that's infilling portions of the lower level, because we have a majority of lower level that has to be filled underneath the mall itself. But we've done straw mat and green space down Greenfield. We've moved the fence back. We've enclosed the fencing. So we are already chipping away at a lot of these items.
Mr. Administrator?
If the developer can speak about the dome, its impact, from the hotel, as well as the abutting the building, and then your recent acquisition of the property south of the site, as well as the jeweler.
Yes, I'll comment on the latter of that. So we recently acquired Northland Towers. Northland Towers is a 400,000 square foot office complex that is about 40% occupied. We know that Southfield is the second largest office market, if not in the city, or at least in Metro Detroit. And we know that consolidating a lot of these office buildings is a plan for, you mentioned Costco doing the same thing, and we are doing that as well with the Northland Towers site. Rebranding it, redeveloping it. We understand with the way the ODD is written, we are not allowed to have any freestanding buildings along Greenfield. We want to keep the walls, the green space, the landscape space that we've talked about. So we've engaged different users, specific, I can't name exact specifics, but I can say that some are already on site, some want to be a part of the site. We've been working with the unfortunate situation which happened at the Advance building about over a month ago with the fire that caused 53 small businesses to lose probably tens of millions of dollars in merchandise and business. We today have signed 13 leases to relocate the jewelers from the Advance building to the Northland Tower building that we will be keeping. The overall plan, or the master plan for the jewelers, is going to be to bring them on Northland. So these jewelers can have a district. They've been in business, some of them 45 years. Probably all of us in this room have gone to that Advanced building or Greenfield Plaza across the street. These people deserve a destination location, like you see in Miami, like you see in Chicago, like you see in New York. Why can't Southfield have that? We have deemed a building, we have earmarked a building behind Costco for that, which will be a one-story building for a jewelry district. So that is in the process as well. I can let Jonathan here speak about the dome and the uses that will come with that as well, but if this dome eventually gets passed and the users come in, we believe it's going to draw a lot of traffic for hotel users, for families, for restaurants. When I met Jonathan 4 years ago, I approached him about opening a food hall at Northland. I brought him here to say that there's the business for the food hall exists, but it has to have these users with Sports Dome, with families coming, with a destination walkable downtown. And with the Sports Dome, we believe that will draw that as well. I'll let Jonathan speak a little about the operations of the Sports Dome as well.
What exactly would you like to know about?
Well, have you reached out to the list of people in the subdivisions that would physically see that dome?
Yeah, we paused all action. It's been hard to really understand what our process is on this. So I've been trying to connect with everyone to understand and get time with everyone in this board, so I know what to do and engage. I'll do it tomorrow. It's really been hard to understand what my process is after the vote of no, and then a rescinding, and then waiting to figure out when I'd be back in front of anyone, and what the process for me was. So I will address those. I have no problem, but.
The other question, at least, that I had, you know, I wasn't saying that you had to totally do a brick and mortar, eliminate the loan, but is there any compromise that can occur that's not that $30-40 million hit, right?
Yeah.
Is there any communication with planning to say, how can we compromise to get to a aligned agreement on what this could be?
Perfect. So I think when we first presented this in February of last year, when we brought it, our actual concept doesn't have any retainage wall around. And a requirement was, hey, can you bring up a retaining wall, I think 3 feet, and can you make it in the mid-century modern materials? So that's, again, about $300,000 in material we're bringing to make a shift per the planning discussion at that point. Then there was a requirement, can you move from one location we proposed to another? We did that. And then our auxiliary building and landscape package, in the use of what we're doing, doesn't need to be to the robust level it's at. So part of that is, again, let's put another couple $100,000 into the design elements there to sort of match what planning is hoping for. Once we get to a point, I think there's a big plan review will have to happen. We'll present, I believe that whole department will come back and make comments back and forth to further into that space.
Would you be able to have the dirt pile removed? Your goal is November, right?
Yeah.
Would the dirt still be there in November? Do you get what I'm saying?
So the greenfield dirt pile that we're talking about has already started to be relocated to that side of it, because there's, construction-wise, there's going to be a portion of where the pad would sit that there's an existing basement on. So
Okay.
we'd have to fill that lower level all the way to its brim with structural designs and with other things that need to be done, you know, in order to build that building. But we've already started relocating that. So some of those items that we've discussed, like the fencing, securing the site, moving piles, green space, have started already.
And then the November date for completion, what would you look like as far as opening to the public? Would the date be November, or would you still have to do some things inside of the dome?
No, the inside will be complete before the dome's up.
Got it.
It's just turf.
So November, you're ready to grow.
Yeah, and it really depends on
What happens here?
permitting, timing, and a lot of work we have to do together. I think planning's our promise to like expedite and work with us. And we've already got our architecture team who's complete, so we're ready to submit and get into that comment.
Councilman Manuel?
Okay, so you had some questions, you know, because you said after the no vote and everything else, you weren't sure what to do, where to go. So the president mentioned, you know, reaching out to the homeowner associations that are directly facing, looking at those developments. So, Mr. Mayor, you know that you're in that area. Are there 2 or 3 homeowners?
Two neighborhoods, Northland Gardens and Magnolia.
Okay. So, do you have those contact information you can provide?
I'm on the board.
Okay. So,
And she's, Ida's on the board of Northland Gardens.
okay, so we can get you that information so you can reach out. The other thing that you mentioned is that with your, so you answered the first question is, okay, you'll have the whole thing completed by November, given, you know, everything else that falls into place and approval and all that other things. What other ancillary items are you bringing with you, or have said, hey, if you build this, we're going to come to Northland? And I guess from the city's perspective, what does that look like? Is that another amendment? Are those automatic approvals? So I want to.
Yeah, well, you were looking at me.
Yeah.
I'm just standing up.
Right. So
there you go.
Right. So Jonathan, from your perspective, let's say you get your approval. You have your building up by November. What does that entail from all the other ancillary vendors or operators that said they would come to Northland? Can you? Who are those people, or can you say what they are?
Yeah, a couple things. And first layer is, again, I can David, the timing of having the buildings prepped and ready in the area that we want to go in the old mall area. That's really charming to us. We find that to be a place that we can create a dynamic live, work, play, entertainment space, and it all just kind of has synergy together. The groups I work with, that I showed in your presentation, like the last presentation, just all the different retail operators. I've reached out to a bunch who are really interested in being in this space. They love the traffic that comes by and they love the idea of it. So I've actually pledged to David, and we have an agreement that I would absolutely manage and take over kind of the entertainment district there, because it builds what I'm doing, and I generally, like I said to you guys in the last presentation, I focus on emerging spaces and spaces that could be and I've been doing Detroit, I'm doing Lansing, and I really see this. I drive by every day. I bike to the last meeting you guys had. I live 1.9 miles away, and this is a huge space for me. I drive down Southfield every time, and that Lathrop old school that sits there, which is just so depressing that it's not actually activated across from the Panera. I even contacted them. That was on a readiness board for the MISHDA, and I contacted them and tried to get them to put food hall, concept, small retail, and of course they didn't move. David's been asking me to do this. I can't do it without my catalytic project, as I mentioned to you before. I need that traffic so those small businesses can function. I think one of my possible tenants, Prateep, who's actually a Southfield, alumni, he came to me when I was talking about doing a dome through a third party, saying, "Hey, John, you know how to get things done." I said, "What are you looking to do?" "Well, I want to build a sports pub that's tied to like small training, PT clinics and all that." I said, "Why don't you cluster with us? We're going down Northland Mall." He said, "That couldn't be more perfect. I grew up there. I want to be part of that." That's the kind of stuff that's going to happen once we start moving into this space. We don't just build ours and we're happy with it. We're trying to build the whole community.
Did you ride your bike today?
I did not ride the bike today.
Okay. Councilwoman Haynes? I'm sorry.
Right, so the second part of my question was to Terry. Did all these, he's talking about bringing this, pub and PT and whatever. Is that going to require another amendment?
No.
But it has to be built with the mid-century modern.
Well, if I could, and I reached out to Jonathan last week, and he called me back, and we had a preliminary discussion about next steps. So you were scheduled, things want to move forward from tonight, to make a decision on the amendment next Monday. It's an advertised, you don't have to have another public hearing. You make the amendment to allow the sports dome. He can come in the next day with his site plan stuff, and he said he has this thing ready to go, and we can work through those issues. As far as, I have not been submitted officially these other things, but someone did share that with me. They're all permitted by right, and I believe they're going to take that northernmost building. It's just a matter of making sure that the site conditions, like the parking and other exterior things, are adequate enough to have that building occupied. So there's no amendment that needs, because everything that they mentioned, the retail, the sports bar, the athletics, his use is permitted right now. It's just because there's a prohibition on golf domes, that's why they need the amendment. Then the rest of it is just site plan issues. So I think we can move very quickly, and I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you know that you're moving forward, you can then sign your leases to be prepared in the fall for when it's constructed, within a month, right? You said?
That's correct.
So that's important to them, is that they know that they can move forward. They can sign the leases with the sports users, so they're not releasing wherever they are now, right?
That's
Am I correct on that? And that's where that timing comes into play.
Okay, so what, can you show on this map what building you're talking about? That you're saying that would be occupied?
So if the dome is going here, this is our main, that's our sports pub.
Hold on,
I'll try to.
we'll bring it up on the TV screen.
That's where Kresge's was.
You gotta come with another show.
It was just a bear.
Did you say next to the fair? Oh. You lost everybody there. So are we talking the rights?
Large
way, and we can use.
Can we put it on the screen and everybody can see it?
That's A, B, G, we're gonna continue down. And then it came right to security.
Anybody remember Max Green?
Yes.
All right, Max Green's was.
I think
Well, I had their full presentation ready to go, but then these guys bumped me. Well, go ahead and ask your question and I'll pull it up.
Okay, so I'm done for now. Thank you.
So are we amending the, Terry, are we amending the?
Well, Monday, because it's been advertised, you can make that determination to amend the ODD to allow for a sports dome. The use is permitted, it's just the architecture that was prohibited.
So we're gonna allow, we're gonna have to go into whether we want the dome or not, before going the mid-century modern plan and things of that nature, to have it done.
Well, that's part of the amendment, is allowing for that sports dome to cohabitate with the rest of it doesn't change the rest of the design guidelines.
Okay, in addition to that, what's the guarantee with that? Because, I mean, these things do fall apart. And what's the guarantee with that? Because, I mean, seriously, we have high winds and all kinds of things. So that's an issue with that, number one. And number two, you're talking about Northland Garden and all of these communities. I think because this is such a big issue, it needs to be the Southfield community involved in this. I don't think we need to just be the people that are in the surrounding area. If this is part of our city and people want to know questions and answers, I think we need to let people know. I mean, that's kind of scary to say sometimes because you might get a little bit of stuff mixed in with that, with, you know, whatever. But I still think it's good to open it to the community so people can have their questions answered, but we need to be quick to answer them. All of this sounds nice and good and everything, but where's the physical plan? Or, you know, can we see something? What he had here was on paper. Do we have anything physical? When you all came before, some of that was done. I think we need something written. That helps a whole lot to show some verification and solidity of what you're talking about. And we need to see that because it'll give us a timeline so we won't have to go and say, but I remember you said last time. No. And I can see things changing, you know, but I think we need to have a plan, a serious, solid plan for that we need to have for the community.
So, David, correct me, wasn't this demolished?
Yes.
So this is the building, right?
Yes.
This is the site where the dome is. Right now, this is the big pile of dirt. That's the Costco Business Center. So the dome would sit here on the north side of the former mall, and this building here would be what you were proposing for the sports bar and
PT clinic,
PT clinic and so forth.
apparel store.
And then,
Will be in between PT clinic.
well, right here, it's just a very narrow. This is the dome, and this is the building they're going to occupy. We don't have specific site plans at this point. But this is roughly the location of the existing footprint.
Could you point out the jewelry district as well, please?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything officially, so.
I mean, it's not official, but it's the building behind Costco.
So it would be this building here?
Yes, yeah, this building would work good for them because there is a mezzanine area on the second floor, which would allow them to do their manufacturing, casting, different, you know, day-to-day operations. And then this would be a 65,000 square foot frontage building, and I did provide a rendering of that. I'm not sure if that's been presented.
And this is Greenfield
Yes.
orientation. This is buildings A and B in phase 1A.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in the ODD also, amendment that's being proposed, we talked about another big box retailer.
Well,
Is that,
what happened was when they originally submitted this, there was another big box to be located where the pile was.
right?
But unfortunately, it showed the building extending to the city-owned property as well as 1,000 parking spaces. So since they didn't control that, we couldn't allow that to go forward. So they removed that to bring the sports dome only.
Okay. So then, if one of our discussion points was to sell the city-owned property,
And that's partly why they need to purchase that so they can build the second big box here.
so the second bid box, would that be another ODD
Well,
amendment?
Yes. Because at the time, and just not to contradict what Mr. Zorn had said, but we did have a big box allocated in the original design.
Right.
And so then, at the time that this kind of shows where that big box was. At the time, the Stofers, the former Stofers restaurant, which was then a bank, was not part of the Northland. They were able to purchase it, and they took the big box and they moved it over here.
For Costco.
For Costco. And at the time, we anticipated 100,000 square foot big box, and I think it ended up being 160,000.
Right.
So that was amendment number 2, and that was in a phase 2. So, it would have been nice to be able to just do one amendment at the same time, but they didn't control the land, so we couldn't allow them to move forward. But it can be done, and I think they were a little hesitant moving forward with the site plan, because the site plan could have been done concurrently, but they wanted to, because it wasn't a guarantee. Now with the next amendment, we can kind of clean up the slate and have the site plan done at the same time as the big box.
Okay, so then my question to
So
Contour.
it wouldn't be any longer.
Okay, so my question to Contour is, do you still have that big box retailer ready to go should we be able to acquire this additional parcel?
I'm hesitant to say yes, because nothing is done until the ink
Right.
dries.
But they're still interested.
They are, I'll say, 5 out of 6 have said yes on the voting share. We also have to work on a parking easement with Tower 14, which we're finalizing. That allows us then to allocate specific parking for that building to their site, and then the parking would be allowed and on our property for the big box.
Okay. Thank you.
Nancy.
She's asking you a question.
I'm sorry.
Is that city property potential for sale?
The 8 acres, it's got a crossover easement with the half building, but we've prepared a purchase agreement. We twice presented it to council and was approved both times for a big box. The sale never finalized. So it had expired. This time it's the same price as before, which is the price that we used for the land originally, and there's $30,000 non-refundable for our legal fees in the agreement.
Is this dome a changing and amending to your approval or to what planning, or is it most likely to be?
Well, again, I agree that the original vision, we have to be fluid and market conditions have changed. And I do believe in Jonathan's development, and I do believe we can come with some compromise. We're going to have 3 foot of durable decorative block or brick on the base. We can work with the front entrance of being mid-century modern. We can add some additional landscaping. I wouldn't say the dome fits mid-century modern, but I am in favor, and I've said it, that the recreational use will generate additional spin-off at the site. And if we're going to compromise, probably the northern piece and along Western Highway is the best places for these big boxes. And I think we can still preserve the former mall and the Greenfield frontage, and as you're driving up and down Greenfield or you're walking through the site, there's still going to be 2/3 of this is going to be that walkable mixed-use development.
Not subject to change.
Councilwoman Bankston, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is it Jonathan for the dome? How large is the dome compared to the dome off of 275?
Yeah, I believe we found that was 65,000 square feet. Ours is 120,000 square feet. I don't know the height of theirs, but they're all generally about the same height because they have a radius. So they're all about 78 feet high.
So it's almost double the size of
It's almost
that?
double the size,
So
yeah.
would it be double the width or double the length?
I don't know the dimensions. I'm just saying, when we Google the square footage of the building, that's what we got.
If
I don't know
If
their
I could,
size.
you're probably more rectangular,
Yeah.
and the one on 275 is more square.
Yeah.
Nancy, we do have, can you pull up the elevations of what the dome's elevations next to other buildings? I think we have a slide of that in the presentation.
Why are you looking for that?
It just gives a perspective on the height of the buildings.
Wild, not wide.
It's important, it's your development that you're trying to make the vision reality. But the better you include community input, especially in the choices of stores that you are seeking, I think will be value added for you. Because I'm gonna say, one of the proposed has challenges. I mean, and I think you and I talked about that.
Yeah.
So I just wanna make sure that you stay plugged in with the community need, because you want to be successful.
We want the whole project to be successful. We will, with that specific user that you're discussing, and that we can't announce obviously, but we will definitely engage and have further discussions when it comes to that.
Yes, sir.
So the bottom left corner shows our dome compared to the other structures that will be on site. So contextually, it's in the same mass as everything else on site.
So Terry, how tall is the apartments that are there, North Park Towers?
Our buildings range from 64 to 82 feet in height. I think the dome is 60 feet in height, and then Hudson's building is almost in line with that. That middle white area, Nancy, is the building of the Hudson's in the mall area, and that's the dome next to it.
I thought the middle white building was a proposed hotel.
Yes, well, I shouldn't say Hudson, the Victor is what we're going to name it.
The hotel is going to be in the old department store.
Okay, see, it would help if there was a visual, but, okay. So, because I thought it was going to be near the jail Hudson Drive, and what was presented.
No, it's always going to have been in the Hudson's building. The Hudson's department store, look, Macy's.
So, at the last meeting when council did turn this project down, everyone was very, very upset, angry, and it was like, if you don't approve this today, we're through. Because we need to start. Help me to understand what is the rush. I mean, if this is delayed, we don't open in November, but if it's approved, it opens up in March. What's the delay? I mean, everyone was adamant. It was almost like, there's money on the table, I'm gonna lose the deal if I don't have it done today. So can you be honest with this council and what was going on?
Yeah, so make sure you say be honest. I'm always honest.
Oh, it was really hard.
Thank you.
So the reality is we won't have tenants for year one, so there's no point of building it. It'll just be an empty building with the main tenants you need. And then you don't build it in March because that's kind of the tail end of the main season. So you wouldn't build it and really occupy it until the following fall. So you'd lose a year in that kind of occupancy. We could build it and be the most out-capitalized, which had the most exposure and money, but then your actual tenant base would be lower than the cost to operate. So just fiscally, you'd want to wait.
So what are you proposing to put in it? Because I see sports
sports
every single season. So for you to say it's going to be delayed, it might not be the basketball season, but after basketball season.
We were talking this earlier. Those clubs, they generally fill their teams up in June. They make their agreements with facilities in May and April. So they're right now making decisions, and groups are begrudgingly holding off and making agreements with other facilities because you guys tabled your vote last time. So they're all holding off, hoping that we get this done because they would prefer to be here. There's a gap in this space, in this South Oakland County area that's needed.
It just seems like it's really rushed. I mean, that's my opinion, it's really rushed.
Which part's rushed, do I understand?
Well, the developer needs to finish some things on his property. So when if your project is approved, you can then develop yours accordingly.
Right.
You can't develop your property with some of the other.
So the timeline for us is we started this discussion last February.
Right, but I'm going to be on it, when you say last February, the first time you presented it to us, it was all over the place. I didn't even know what you were talking about.
I think it was an administrative approval that was going through his plan. I can't speak, I wasn't involved until March.
Right, so
for me, but I'm invested in working towards this. We were seemingly having negotiation discussions. We're on this site, move to this site. Okay, great. We can't, why don't you bring the wall up a little bit? So we started working in good faith in the sense that this was happening. So I'm not trying to rush anyone. I was just giving you the realities of where I was at. We've been working for 13 months to the point where that vote happened. So we've already been involved for 13 months. Us coming to your board, I believe there was some sort of vote or discussion in December of last year, of 25. There was a tape, and then it was pushed into, why don't we go to the whole process, went to planning for a couple meetings, and that pushed us into the next meeting, which was the 2 meetings with you guys. So we didn't really get involved with the city of our verbal part of this until February, March.
So there was another developer
No,
that was proposing this prior to you?
We present planning to planning department of possibly doing an administrative approval because the use is, you're not allowed to call it dome use. And Terry, you can speak better on this.
Yeah, I'll just speak up. When they first approached us, they asked about a sports facility, which is permitted. And I said, it's permitted, we can do this administratively. And all I had was a square box footprint. I didn't have a dome, didn't have elevations or anything. After we found out it was a dome, I looked at the ordinance that says, unfortunately, golf domes are prohibited. That's where the delay. So they reached out, can we do a sports facility? I looked at the ordinance, yes, it's permitted by right. Where are you going to locate it? Well, originally it was going to be where the green space and the lower parking area was a natural area for stormwater. And that's why it was designed that way. That's where the big pile of dirt is. So then I said, that's not the best place, and if you're going to build it there, you're going to have to replace that green space somewhere else. So it was an evolution, and it wasn't until they relocated it to the north end that it truly became a dome. We started getting the
So that's a whole big change, so don't put the responsibility of.
I don't think anybody put that, we started the conversation is what we're saying.
Right, but it's a whole different stalling, I mean, I'm not saying stalling, but it didn't happen at that time because there was a change in plans. That's what we need to be clear about. You said it came from a sports building to a dome, that was a change, wasn't it?
Well, originally when you reached out to us, you asked about, is a sports facility, and I said, yes, we can do that administratively because it was permitted by right. We did not know it was a dome at the time.
So there's been a lot of
But I think these things evolve though. It's not no misunderstanding. It's a
So if
process
it's
of
evolving from a
development.
building to a dome, that's a different evolution.
I wasn't involved in any of
We
that.
never presented a building.
But that's a different thing. I mean, what he's saying is that has changed because the building is according to the plan, the mid-century modern. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they just provided a square footprint that said sports facility. That's all we had to go on.
That was in December?
No,
Very
that was
general.
before that, about a year ago.
So the point is, we're not trying to rush anyone. I was just trying to give an actual timeline for my involvement. I wasn't involved in a lot of that stuff. I didn't come in until we talked the first time in February, March. So for me, what I was referring to is like, I wasn't rushing anyone. I was just in the process of timing it out.
Because if you weren't here at the table from the beginning, then there wasn't the plan for you at the beginning. So you.
No, he was the plan the whole time. I think there's a misconception.
He said he was.
Sorry, I shouldn't.
Yeah, he's been the operator since day one.
I'm not saying he was.
Let's move on from that.
Yeah, let's move.
So, David, I'd like to go back to what was the package pickup, the recessed area on Northwestern Highway. So what is your plan for that site? Is that where the next big box is going to go?
Where are you talking?
Where the red dot is. You've been to Hudson.
Oh, that one, okay.
The lower area.
Okay.
So what is your plan now?
We have piles of soils on site that we would probably need to use on site. To dispose of those soils and to use them properly, that location would be the best location for the soils. We'll probably have more soils as we build more buildings. So that location, that lower bowl, used to serve as a detention basin. Now we have underground detention basins and new ponds on site.
All right, so are you going to build on it?
That would be the plan, yes.
And would this big box be part of that?
Yes.
One thing I'm concerned about, underneath those piles of dirt are layers of asphalt.
Correct.
That needs to be penetrated, or you're going to have drainage problems.
That needs to be penetrated every 10 feet. So we'd be relocating piles, penetrating, stacking it like we did when we did the demolition of JCPenney in lifts of 1 foot sections.
All right.
So, sir, most of us got an email today with another allegation of a potential lawsuit on proprietary information. Are you familiar with that?
No, not that I'm aware of. Can you be more specific?
Market.
Oh, I mean, that didn't happen today. That happened a while
just
back.
got- we just
Yeah,
got.
so the word Hudson City Market, the bigger developers, they're bigger developers than me, believe it or not. They don't want to let us use the word Hudson. They feel entitled that that word should be used by other developers. So unfortunately, we have to change the name of anything Hudson City Market, like the hotel, for example, we're going to name it the Victor, in reference to Victor Gruen, the architect of the site. So we can't use.
That's just it? Not the idea?
Not the idea, no, just the name. I mean, I have my attorney here who can speak on that, but that's a conversation that's going on for a little over a year now.
David, we have something else. It's,
It's the concept of the sports dome. He's claiming that he posed that to you in 2024.
Who's that?
To you, the name I just gave.
Excuse me, can you say that again?
Marv, are you familiar with Marv?
No, ma'am. This is the only gentleman I spoke to regarding the sports film, a bubble sports film.
Did the developer speak to him, Marv?
No, I don't know any Marvin.
Wait a minute, let me give you another name.
Okay.
It's Marvin Hicks.
I know, I didn't want to say that. Because it's.
No relation.
I was gonna say that.
I was sports.
Marvin Hicks to be with
ETA,
Sylvia George.
sports ETA.
We had discussions with that, Marvin, but not
Sure,
in
that's
this
right.
reference, no.
Well, that's what I'm referring to.
And again, I am not the operator of the building. If this moves forward, Jonathan and his team are operating the facility.
I get that. I'm just saying, according to what we got,
Marvin Hicks.
you took the idea.
No, I didn't take it. He brought the idea. I never took anybody's idea. I played sports my whole life, so I wouldn't have to look at somebody else to understand how sports works.
And so there's no NDA that was signed
Not that I'm aware of,
between you.
no. No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. But you did talk to.
I spoke to Marvin, yes, absolutely. He had an idea, he had a name called Ninjato.
Yep.
Right? And he had a lot of, he wanted to buy the entire site to do a sports facility for football and for all types of different uses. I didn't see that was viable. I saw Jonathan's team more viable. I've had conversations with tennis users that would like to do a tennis facility on the site as well.
Jonathan and David, this is a very simple question. The sports dome, would it be occupied year-round with all the sports so the seasonal?
Yeah, your impact peaks will be from November until till March, and then you'll just have smaller patronage during the summer with warmer weather.
Okay, so.
It'll be year-round, it's just your peaks will be in the winter.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, thank you.
You didn't sign an NDA.
I can't stand here and say I did or didn't. We do business every day, so I'm not sure what the exact language on, if there's an NDA or not. I don't remember.
2024 question. I think that's something we need to probably straighten out. I mean, don't you think?
They haven't started any litigation, this is a threat letter.
Oh, I'm not saying that, I understood it was a threat, but I'm just saying, do
We don't want to come back out. Either party.
especially if we've got forewarned about it. Don't you guys think?
He does
Straighten it out?
I just saw this.
What'd you say?
I can't find it anywhere.
Can you confirm that?
Confirm first thing in the morning.
Please.
And as far as, I mean, we have, like I said, we've designed over 200 different designs for different users. That doesn't prohibit us from having conversations or making deals with people that actually can do the job and have locations to succeed.
It would do us a
Sure,
good if you could
absolutely.
confirm it in the morning because someone is warning us, and so it would be helpful if you could just squash it.
We'll be right with you there.
Sylvia George Green. Marvin Hicks.
Well, he accuses you
No,
of
they have
taking his
contact me.
plans, but.
I don't have any plans though,
John's-
because Jonathan came to me, I think, in 23 for sports facilities and other users. I would have a conversation with Jonathan when we first got into Northland.
I just want us to
No,
squash it.
this is the first I've heard of it.
Council, you have any more questions for?
We need to have some.
Was he coming back to it?
I mean, what's your plan?
Did you hear the question?
I didn't, I'm sorry.
The question was, what's your plan for the dirt?
I mean, we're going to use dirt as much as we can on site. We've done testing, we've used a third-party engineer to watch us use the dirt, move the dirt on site. We've worked with Jeremy, we work with Neil, with OHM on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis when it comes to the dirt. If we can use that dirt on site for that bigger box or any other user that comes there, we will do that.
While it's on site, what's happening to it? What is it effect on site? Is it covered or protected or?
Say that again one more time.
While it's on site, is it covered, protected, or?
I am not a geotech engineer. I can say that in my discussions with these licensed engineers, there is no problem with this dirt sitting on site as is. But we do have a plan. We want to seed it with wildflowers so it grows and just looks better. And it stabilizes the soil itself.
Okay, is there some way we could reassure the residents and the media, if you will, about this series? Because it keeps coming up, and it keeps coming up that the mayor's not answering, that the council's not answering, and all of us are just avoiding the issue.
I'll tell you right now, over a year ago, we were approached by the Detroit police because of the articles that came up. We voluntarily said, here's all of our information. And nothing has come of it since then. Because we have nothing to hide when it comes to the dirt that's on that site. That's why there's a brownfield. That's why there's a way to use that and whatever we need to do with the development. As far as any dirt that we've hauled off site, I have tickets that I've provided to them as well with engineers watching that. So as far as the dirt on site, like Neil mentioned, I'm not a geo expert, but if you go around the state of Michigan or this region, you're going to find the same soils throughout.
Any other questions, council? Yes, ma'am.
I just think we need to definitely get an answer. I mean, I just saw this email, and it looks like there's an attorney name on the bottom of the email, so.
There's no proof the attorney can be retained.
Well, I know,
Someone saying there's no litigation. Personally, I'm a little outraged.
Anybody can accuse me.
We've got legal counsel here. People saber rattle all the time, folks. We're not party to any kind of agreement. I mean, this is just another spin on our time. I mean, people come up with ideas all the time that look alike, and they have every right. If by quick read on this, anyone else who has a sports idea, and has the county ever approached anyone? I mean, I don't put any credence in it. I mean, people make idle statements all the time.
I believe this is the same person that wanted to partner with David Farben on the dome that was approved for 9 Mile next to the Epicenter building. And they couldn't come to an agreement. I'm pretty sure it's the same person.
And who also asked us to put a $750,000 subsidy and could never present a business plan as to what he was doing in the 9 Mile location. And when we looked to get interest to protect the city, he couldn't deliver.
And can I mention that we've had other users come to the site? I can openly say a baseball stadium came in. Fred, the mayor, were present, and the numbers were out the roof. It didn't make sense. So I don't know how. Exactly. So I mean, people have ideas. You have to show. You guys have asked me for proof of I've done it in the past. There's buildings that are up behind that proof. I've also asked that gentleman, show me how you're going to back this, because this is a business transaction, I believe. It's not anything else. He showed me that.
We don't believe him. We just want to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is the first I've heard of it.
You know.
I've heard it.
Just like
Is it possible, I'm going back to the dirt. Again, what I mentioned earlier, putting something, an FAQ on your website with testing you've done, what your next steps are, and by when.
Again, we'll
on his website.
You saw that?
Okay. And if you all think that that's something that you all want, it's just me, I'm cool with that. But I think that we need
I would agree.
Yeah, that's what we're giving, just to answer. If there's nothing to hide, then it should be written. And we're just not asking for us, we're asking for the community because it keeps coming to us. And if we're the people to give them the answer, we have to go to the source, you know? We don't need to have unknown so-called reporters coming out telling the story for us.
I mean, those reports are also made claims that there was a contractor, this all stems back to some work in Detroit, right? That contractor has never worked for me.
Guyanga.
That contractor has never worked for the city of Southfield. He's not in the database in the city of Southfield.
So, yeah, you see, we need all that information.
So it's a false narrative that's being spun.
So I'm sorry. Did I get to answer my question?
I'm going to speak to my consultants who do that type of work when it comes to testing. I know there's existing testing that we'll request, and we can provide we put a statement out there through our consultants on what's out there.
And even ask your consultant to view the videos of the residents and their questions, because those can be answered from that. That's all we're asking for, you know, because it keeps coming to us, and we do have a responsibility, and just, we want to know too. I mean, just what he was talking about, the information of what's in dirt, period. I mean, I'm a gardener, I know it's just not all pure all the time, you know, but everybody doesn't know that. You know, sometimes when you speak intellectually and you say things like that, people feel insulted because it's like, oh yeah, that's nothing. But we don't know that, they don't know that. So just to ease, you know, we appreciate that, thank you.
Councilman Mandelbaum.
Thank you. This is a question for Jonathan. And I can't remember if we asked this last time. So this is a large dome that you're proposing, and we've seen it where it's come down in other locations, you know, wind or whatever. How sturdy is it, and should it come down, how quickly can it be replaced?
Yeah, there's a bunch of manufacturers across the world that make these. So we vetted and found the one that had the highest safety rating. And the way that they construct, they have cross wiring, and they also have welds. Welds are it's like kind of how they sew it together. And the welds are more frequent, so if there's a tear in a weld, they've had history where there's been tears through high wind storms and all that, and the dome doesn't come down because the pressure's still impacted. So we've chosen a group because obviously we have to insure it, and you know our name and livelihood's on that. So we've chosen the best quality possible to avoid any kind of issue. Of course, in the world, there's always issues, so there's no perfect answer.
Okay, so let's say you get a tear. Does that mean that all the nobody can enter the dome, or it can still be used until it's repaired, or do you just, how does that work?
That's a good question. I don't know that exact answer of how that if it closed down to fix the weld or not. Probably makes sense to me. Weird world. I come from contracting, and I'm actually certified in that kind of welding. So I can tell you, I've done a lot of roofs. We used to do all the corporate restaurants across the Midwest, and like Duralast roofing and all that. So I understand how the welding system works. It's pretty simple. I would assume there's probably a safety issue. Clear the building, bring out the welders, fix that.
Thank you.
But I think last time you said that it would take months. Did you say something like that?
I didn't say 8 months.
Information, an FAQ about brownfields could go on the DDA website very easily, if that is of interest.
I understand the easiness of doing it, but they haven't committed to doing it.
I'm just offering to have it housed on the DDA's website. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the issue isn't the brownfield, it's the dirt. We've got to.
I think what she's saying is we can add it on the DDA's website. We'll put something out there also from our side to
We need
work
it on our side.
we can all work together in tandem on it, because again, that dirt was there prior to us acquiring
We
it.
gotta quit the land, we're done.
I thought last time when you talked about that, you said it would take months to repair or something. There was something said before about
I do
it.
not recall that at all.
I remember asking a question and you said, I'll go back and look at the film, but I remember because I said, what if it collapsed? You said, well, you have to get material to come in or something of that nature. I do remember that because I gave an example.
I remember you asking. I don't recall that answer.
But God forbid this thing would collapse. I think we'd work hand in hand on making sure it's safe in and around the area right away. It wouldn't be a month situation.
So, Mr. Williams and I had conversations about It's my understanding that this is a ground lease, 20-year. We had conversations about provisions that could be written into the ODD that could safeguard that in the event it came down. When we looked it up, the Lexus Dome was put back up within 90 days. I think I've shared with some of you an experience in Woodhaven back in the late 80s that took a number of years, and it never came back up. But as Jonathan has indicated, these domes are built very differently today than a structure that went up in the 80s. And that one, it sat down for a couple of years, but Grant and I had spoke about this. I was asked about the ability to pay. Ms. Malone and I saw six different documents. It has been 35 years since I've done that type of business counseling and that. The things looked in order. I turned to our attorney, Grant Williams, and we just talked about having different people review this. A little tough for a law firm to make comments on this. I'll remind counsel, at one point very on, we had a letter of credit from the lender for an excess of $100 million. There's over $49 million on this site, not counting the Costco and not counting the 2 buildings that have gone up. Each of these pieces, each of these pads have different finance vehicles, and there's some review. So we're trying to work our way how we speak to proof of funds. What I saw in this room in roughly a half hour, looked like we saw 6 different funding sources coming together on different pieces. But each of these pieces, as they come together, are very different, from construction to permanent. Where this project is different than our other projects, this isn't our project. We're not building it. Our projects, we have budgets. We talk about performance, when there's an amendment. And those are questions that we typically don't ask our private developers. I think for us as an entity, it's about the scale, the size. We have projects built all the time. One of the largest was probably 12 Mile and the old St. Bede's site. Brownfield demolition, a tenth of this site. And just to give you an example, when you look at what's been built here, minus all of the infrastructure, the 2 buildings and the Costco, dwarf what we went up at 12 and Southfield Road. So Grant and I will work on how we work on that, respect a law firm's ability to put in place all the belts and suspenders on what they're going to comment on, what they can comment about, as well as the developers' rights. I mean, proof of funds is a real challenge for us to gauge. I look at, they managed to buy the properties to the south. They managed to put in $49 million. I too am frustrated with the rate. I wish by now there were 4 or 5 buildings.
So what's the estimated completion date?
So we're going through inspections right now for A, final inspections. We have probably another 45 days to go to finish A through the inspection process.
I'm sorry, for the entire development.
I can't put a number out there exactly right now. It's definitely, but it's not 2050, like something was mentioned this evening. I don't think that's the date. I don't know where the date came from. But we are following along the development agreement.
So A and B, do you have dates for those?
Yes, we'll have A open in the next 45 days. B should be open by July. And again, I invite everybody to see the progress and to see the units, because we'll put our multifamily units, we can compare them to any nice units in the area.
Is that a projected date or definite?
You know, in our world, a lot of things are projected.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about that.
I'd say definite on A.
Okay. And when you talk about the dome the one time, I don't know who said this, but I just want to bring this up. Well, if it doesn't work, we can tear it down. Remember hearing that comment?
I said it.
Yeah. So, what wouldn't work about it?
It's like the project last night that got approved. It's not a huge thing to wipe it off and start over.
And I think, if I can recall correctly, I think what you stated the last time was that you went with this design because repair, maintenance, all of that is more reasonable, and that if something happened, that you felt the repairs would be reasonable as well as the time it took to replace it. I think that was your statement. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, what Mr. Mandelbaum stated, we just want to make sure if there is a tear, we don't see it hanging forever. Because I think that's what you're getting at, right? And surely you wouldn't do that to us, but I'm sorry, Mr. President, if you were going to ask this. You know, this is coming before us on Monday. The planner for the dome, right? That's coming on the agenda
The
for
amendment
Monday.
for the dome is coming back on Monday, the 27th.
And so we as a body, we have to be comfortable with these terms. That, is that enough? If we talked enough about that so that we can address that vote on Monday. I'm, Mr. Zorn, I'm good if you're good with it. If you think that, I mean, Contour has stated they've already made some of the requirements of that term bill already. And if we can just add whatever is remaining, when will it be? And then if we can get some, status
Project
updates.
timeline and the fact sheet. We're at it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, has anyone from the city been on the site recently to view anything that has been done, and if so, when?
I could tell you last week, I was on site this morning, I was on site last week 3 times. Chuck Woodward and I went through the site, drove the full interior site last Wednesday in the rain, and
When you're,
I'm comfortable with what I'm hearing about Building A. Everything in the term sheet has been structured to put the city in the strongest position in the event there's a default and that timeline. And Grant and I on Holy Thursday, we were on the phone for an hour and a half that evening till 10, quarter after 10. I know my wife was PO.
So in this agreement, maybe I asked Mr. Grant, if he fails within a timeline, can we institute a fine?
Sound good?
Well, can we, yes, in other words, and would that come out of the brownfield?
No, come out of his
They
pocket.
do it to every development. That's
And one of the things we're looking at is making sure taxes get paid, so there's a practical nature to that.
I mean, isn't the big, I mean, if there's a default under the ODD, as I said before, there's a default under the brownfield redevelopment agreement. He's got to gain 40-something million worth of eligible activities to be returned to him through tax increment financing. So if we default him under the brownfield agreement and he doesn't get any more, he doesn't get reimbursed for the eligible costs that he's already expended or any future eligible costs that he needs to get the site back, that's a pretty big penalty. That's a $50 million penalty.
Well, where I'm going is a number of major road projects. If the contractor doesn't get the road done on time, there's a fine for every single day they're over the deadline.
Liquidated damages.
I mean, I just read at Coachella, 2 minutes over a $40,000 fine because they violated the noise ordinance in Indigo, California. I mean, people do these things. It's an incentive to make sure that you're producing what you say you're going to do. Honestly, I have trust issues here. Because I've been told too many times that this is going to happen when, and it didn't.
I mean, so usually have that, it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, this week, next week, and beyond that, you know, that's a business plan, a business idea.
So what does everyone at the table need to proceed? Should we just go around the table? Nancy?
I'd like number one to make sure the developer agrees to everything. I don't know if we can rush this to put it on Monday's agenda. It might have to go on another agenda. I mean, there's a lot of details, and I'm not sure if I understand. Well, I know the rushes, they want to open up in November, but so anyways, I haven't heard the developer say that everything we've requested he can do. Engineer brought up an interesting statement. You know, there is we need to see some action on that property.
Councilwoman Bland?
Just the punch list, and of course the FAQs for the soil. I just think it would be fair for the community to actually see, here's where we stand with the soil, so that we can put that to rest, and just have, you know, Janelle send a link if it's not on our site, whatever the case may be. But yeah, definitely the punch list, right? Because that's coming straight from the city administrator, and I think it's been face to face with this process thus far. So that would be nice, that we get some confirmation that that is available.
Maybe if I may add to the punch list, because it's the key terms, but planning has a punch list of items for the site plan tied to each, you know, first the Costco, then buildings A, then building B. We had a conversation about the laughing elephant, and then engineering has a punch list, as-built drawings, each going through.
We haven't even talked about that, but I think huh? Well, I don't think we can hope yet. It's like we need a conversation about it. I mean, I'm just gonna do what she said. I mean, I think we all kind of share it, you know. If we don't, it's, you know, we'll move forward.
So I would also ask that tomorrow Jonathan reaches out and get him the information quickly tonight for those, at least those two neighborhoods. And you reach out, you have, you know, two board members here, you know, that could at least put together, you know, talk to those two neighborhoods at least to get going. I know Councilman Haynes mentioned, you know, the community, but, you know, you have a week to do it. It's gonna, that's gonna be a little tricky, but at least those two communities can.
Continuing education.
Correct.
2.5 weeks to do this.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I think, well, I was for it, and I haven't changed my position, but I would just ask for the sake of my colleagues that we make sure we squash that issue in the morning about the NDA. I know that it's important to reach out to the neighborhoods, so if you can meet with them tonight and let them, you guys exchange information so that you could be at the next meeting, because that's important to us. And then we'll make sure that we do what we can to communicate to our residents. You know, we've got to fix, the issue with communicating to our resident has nothing to do with your project. We struggle with how do we make sure we get that out, because not everyone comes to the meetings and all of that. I think then, lastly, well, I like the plan, so I'm in support of it. I like the fact that the administrator is in support of it. I would just like those timelines that I had requested, and we do a status so that we've got to stay on top of it. And I understand that you have to pivot, things happen, we had a pandemic and all of that, but I think that, in my opinion, having this project will help us to move forward, to keep adding, getting those dirt piles down, and something built up, more lighting and exposure. So I'm praying that we'll get through this over the next week or so, so that when we come back on Monday, I would love for us to have a unanimous vote. But we got to make sure everybody's concern is met.
Mrs. Horn, anything else?
No, sir.
Madam Attorney?
I'll just add that I looked at the email and there are some things that are not legally valid, but I support what you said about making sure you don't have the NDA. But I'm looking at some of the language and the fact that the law firm may not exist.
Oh, the law firm didn't exist?
May not exist, yeah.
Madam Attorney, you good?
I'm good.
Councilman Brightwell?
I'm comfortable with the plan as is, and I remember Northland from years ago when we first got it. So, but what I would want right now is frequent updates to cover all our issues, at least how many times we meet a month. At least twice a month, I want an update on where we are with respect to Northland. And that's a very short, that's a very minimal, at a minimum, twice a month, what is going on at Northland. And whoever it comes from the administrator or from the developer, we have to have that info. And I would like for, this is a tried and true mechanism of getting results. I want to explore the possibility of a penalty for non-performance. A penalty for non-performance. And I just want to explore it. I don't want to slow this down, but I want to make sure that we are progressing. Is there something at the end of the road, doing this going down the road, that we can institute a penalty, and I can look to see whether that's viable. I don't want to stop it, but at a minimum, my main ask is to get something on at least twice a month. I want to hear a report back, what's going on.
I didn't hear what you said, Grant.
We've been kind of whispering about ideas. We need to really explore that and figure out how that works, including with the bench members in place.
All right, thank you.
So I agree with Councilwoman Bland where she started. I believe there needs to be consequences because I think we have trust issues on deliverance. And I also think that the answers on the dirt is very important. I feel comfortable with the way the explanation about the dirt is, because I know where it came from, our projects. It came from Southfield to Southfield. And I know why we did it, because we thought we were going to have to buy dirt. The mall went up, disappeared. And this is also, to get rid of dirt, you got to pay somebody to haul it. So, but I think it's become such an issue, especially because somebody has sensationalized something and has no proof. And as I said last night's council meeting, you got to be very careful what you believe from what's put out there on the internet, because there's a lot of stuff that's just garbage. I just think it is so essential that the things that are on this punch list now be met. And as I said earlier, the as-built, you got nothing if you don't have the as-built. And people shouldn't live in that building if you don't have those plans. It's extremely important.
So, can we all get the information about when you send out to the community so they'll know when these meetings are happening? So can we get the dates on that?
What's the question?
When you go to the community, can we get the information as well to know when you're going to the community, to let us know?
Yeah, I'll copy you all the emails I've sent. I'll copy you all.
Well, to the neighborhood association, sorry.
Same thing.
So I don't want to rehash what everyone has said. I know that we have a short window at this point. I guess I have a couple of questions first. One, is there any additional action that we're going to have Contour come back for us for any extensions in the near future, for any of the current development extensions of dates?
Well, the amendment is broken down to allowing for the sports dome as a permitted use and removing it as prohibited, but it also was to update their phasing plan. They're out of compliance with their phasing plan, so that would be addressed or possibly be addressed Monday. You could vote on those separately, but that is part of the amendment packet.
So that will be my ask, because people around the table had to find a variety of things. that I don't believe are gonna all happen by Monday. So I think we need to decouple those two items. One proceeding with the dome, and then the other one addressing that, depended on satisfying the ask from around the table, which would include having the dirt tested, the FAQs posted, shared with us so that we can communicate that appropriately. That gives time for the attorneys to align on penalties, and then we can find that so that all those other fluid components can get done before we amend that.
So I just procedurally, you already have the public hearing, we re-advertise for it to come back on the 27th. You can bifurcate those approvals. Let's say, for example, you want to move forward on the dome.
Yep.
As long as you can do it one time, I guess, postpone to a date certain,
Yep.
bring back the phasing,
Yes.
if you're not comfortable doing it that night. After that, then we have to re-advertise. But that's been our policy procedure on once we've advertised once, had a public hearing, then postponed to a date certain. And then anytime after that, we would like to re-notify the public. So that is an option for you.
And so before Monday, I would like Mr. Hartzell to work with the identified subcommittees, HOAs, to have that discussion and alignment, and then something can get back to us from them how that ended up. But also long-term, would like to have a plan that would reach out so that we can, as the mayor said, give informational sessions to the rest of the community of what you're trying to do. I mean, usually I function on data, zeros and ones, being technical, but I got a good feeling about you, Mr. Harrison. I think you're a good man, and you do what you say you're going to do. And that means a lot to me. I'm just one. That means a lot to you. Yes, sir.
So I would just double the other question I would ask the council is, because I think we pulled it from the last Monday night, is the 8.5 acres for sale. That is needed for, the big box.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if that plan can come back on Monday or not, or how the council feels about that.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Because why would you get more if you haven't received what you're looking for?
So, based on what I said, what's the consensus of the group? Does that align with how you think it should play out? Decouple the two items, one proceeding with the dome, and then the other things that you all have identified be done before we do phases.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So if the dome is approved, but the second part of the plan is not acceptable, then it seems like you would do it reverse.
Well, I don't want to hold the developer hostage.
No, but what if the,
My thought is, my understanding, and Terry, correct me, we approved the dome, you and Rising Detroit would have additional discussions to come to some sort of compromise on site plan,
issues,
blah, 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 all that stuff, right?
Right.
So I don't believe all that stuff's gonna be resolved by Monday. But to your point, Councilwoman Banks, I think that I'm looking for us to have a phased plan on how we address the existing pain points that were identified at this table before we approve the next item for the proceed. I understand you said that you feel like it's backwards.
yeah, and when you say next item, is the next item the dome?
The 8.5 acres.
Oh, the 8.5 acres.
Well, that and the development plan update. Am I saying that right, Terry?
Yeah, and I think if and when the sale goes forward, they could bring the big box at the same time and do that as an amendment. So that doesn't include the timing on the term sheet. But the overall amendment of the phasing plan could be tied to the next amendment, so.
We're most likely going to We're gonna need some time to go
Well, he just said, so we can.
I like the separate the dome and the floor. You get the approval, they can run that concurrently on the site plan. We finish up the term sheet. And we put this term sheet together that it protects the city's interest in getting these pads finalized, but he can't move forward because he's not issued a building permit. It's gonna have that wall that needs to be built below grade, where that dirt's gonna go. I mean, there's quite a bit of engineering work there, and they can run that concurrently if they have a site plan. If they have an approval on the ODD amendment to accept the dome.
Can you have a statement that you will present on Monday on the dirt?
I'll review with my legal and I'll get back to you.
Is that possible? Understand where I'm going with that step there?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, anything else?
What's the date we get?
What else? I mean, you won't control it, so if you don't feel comfortable, you can pull it or defer it. Just because we put it on the agenda, I mean, you can't amend it.
We need to get back with you tomorrow. Can you get back with you tomorrow?
The question is, can you have that, when can you get back to us?
I can get back to you tomorrow.
Sir.
Must.
He said he could do it tomorrow.
I mean, on an ongoing basis. Frequent.
The question,
That's gonna be.
Oh,
in
wait.
the plan.
His attorney's
I
there?
want a statement of.
Oh, where's his attorney?
We're gonna do that.
You didn't know?
Oh, well, he can tell us now, because he's here. The attorney's here. Well, let's do that.
What would you like me to tell you?
right.
What's the question?
What is the question for the attorney? Regarding,
When can you provide a statement on testing of the dirt, next steps, and a plan?
well, the dirt has been tested. I think we've clarified that.
A year ago. So we're asking for the results, a statement,
Do we ask that of every
and when the next steps are for removing the dirt.
You said you had to consult with him, so we're just saying, since he's here, you can consult with him, so we'll know what, you know.
Do we ask
Well, I
that
think
of
there
every
are test
developer?
results for the dirt.
Don't do
Okay,
that.
but you said you had to consult with him, so.
I mean, that's,
We'll consult in the office, so
All right,
you
so
know,
tomorrow then.
we'll get back to you very timely.
Thank you, sir.
Because if we have to be pushed to do things, I think in all fairness, it's not campaign finance report.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else?
This is ridiculous.
Thank you. Council. We good to go to the next item. All right, next item.
Don't shoot me.
Make a good last name. Good last name.
You know this.
And I just didn't say it like that.
B or C. Just give me
So starting off, we'll discuss how vehicle purchases are funded. So the motor pool is an internal service fund set up to provide equipment and services to other city operations based on user charges. So all equipment purchases, whether they're vehicles or heavy-duty equipment, such as dump trucks, excavators, and so on, fire trucks even, are purchased, but they're purchased through the motor pool, and then they're basically leased from motor pool, so that the charges for the use of the vehicles and the maintenance of the vehicles are charged back to the departments. So these interfund charges are recorded as revenues within the motor pool fund, so lease revenue coming in annually, and then expenditures within the user department funds. Austin, do you have anything to add to it?
No, except on the heavy equipment, that's per Schedule C, right?
Yeah, the rental rates are per Schedule C. Which Schedule C is an MDOT rate schedule. All right, here we have the summary of our fleet, our motorized fleet. So this does not include small engines, non-motorized equipment, and so on. So we have 253 automobiles, 53 heavy-duty pieces of equipment, total of 306 in the fleet. You can see the breakdown by department as well. Take-home vehicles are 41. Actually, that's a typo. That should be 40. And that means the building does not have a take-home vehicle. We just, before this meeting, we ironed that out with building. So there was a miscommunication there. So it should be 40 take-home vehicles. No, they know. So the way we're classifying these take-home vehicles is by emergency responders versus compensatory take-home vehicles. Right, so there's 40 take-home vehicles. Of those 40, 30 are assigned to emergency responders, and 10 are compensatory. So emergency response are trained professionals who are amongst the first, to arrive at and assist at the scene of an emergency. They provide immediate life-saving care and assess situations to stabilize the environment. So they protect life, property, evidence, and the environment in the early stages of an incident. A compensatory vehicle is a non-cash taxable fringe benefit where an employer provides a company vehicle for an employee's work and or personal use. And the goal there is, it's often used for upper management employees who may respond to after-hour emergencies or as a perk. Currently, take-home vehicles are being utilized by chiefs, directors, deputy chiefs, deputy directors of departments that are involved in emergency responses, such as police, fire, and public works. And you have a breakdown of those here in this slide. And I'll refer you to the spreadsheet, which has a more detailed breakdown there. So the first 3 pages of the spreadsheet there show all of the emergency responders that have take-home vehicles. And then the 4th sheet lists all of the compensatory positions that have take-home vehicles. by department. Then the compensatory vehicles, again, police, fire, public works, 442. Then we have the yearly fleet versus take-home accidents, sort of summary from fiscal year 22, 23, 24, and then 25 and 26. The next page in the spreadsheet packet gives you details on all of the take-home vehicle accidents over the past 3 years. 3 years. So as you requested, there's location of the accident, the cost of the accident, description of the accident, the person involved, or sorry, the person who the vehicle is assigned to. And note, I mean, the way our record keeping is right now, these accidents include things like a cracked windshield or a pothole that puts someone off, misaligns the tires and so on. So these are not all catastrophic crashes necessarily. So here's a breakdown of annual vehicles purchased. Looks like in 2024 we were playing catch up with replacing older vehicles. And these are all based on, these numbers are based on the delivery dates, because that's when we record these vehicles in the system, so when we actually receive them. We don't really have a record of when we place the order unless we go through every council item, you know. All right, going on to vehicle replacement policy. So historically, vehicles were selected really on department requests, fairly subjectively. There was an unofficial policy of replacing vehicles every 10 years, 100,000 miles, but it wasn't adhered to. Going forward, what we are proposing is that vehicles will be replaced at 8 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first. And the next slides will go into supporting that, that position. Now, this policy will also be supplemented with objective vehicle replacement ratings, which are available through, or will be set up and will be available through the OpenGov Asset and Fleet Management System, which incorporates the age of the vehicle, the usage, which is the 80 years, 100,000 miles, but then also incorporates repair costs and condition data. And keep that VRR in mind going forward. We'll touch on that again in a few slides.
What page are you on?
12.
Thank you.
So here's a summary of our fleet. I mean, when we talk about even the previous unofficial policy of 10 years, 100,000 miles, you can see we have vehicles, 2 vehicles in the fleet that are from 1999, so 27 years old. We have 2 vehicles from 2002, a vehicle from 2003, you know, so we have several vehicles that are much more than 10 years old, and Parks can attest to that. They've got trucks with, what, the rotted out frames?
I think I currently have about 8 right now. They're 213, 214,
yeah,
and maybe 1 prior to that.
Right. So with the 8-year, 100,000 mile proposal, there's some points to note there. Retiring the assets or disposing of the assets earlier will help us, will help with better capital recovery. Basically, we'll get higher auction prices from those. There's also reduced maintenance costs. Vehicles more than 8 years old typically require more significant maintenance, which obviously increases the cost. And then newer vehicles also require less maintenance, so you're not spending as much time on them and resources on them as well. And then this improves safety and technology features. You make sure you're covered with the latest safety and technology features, such as, one of the big items right now is the hands-free, and some of these vehicles from 2006, 2002, they don't have that hands-free technology that the state requires since 2023 or 2022, I believe.
Yeah, that's an easy remedy by adding a different radio or.
Sure.
But,
So here's an example of a 2008. This is on page 14. A 2008 Chevy Impala. This at the top should say 8 years, 100,000 mile policy. Sorry, there's a typo there as well. And so what this is showing you is, at 8 years, it had 82,732 miles on it. Maintenance cost was about $5,700, which is 34% of the original price. And then you recover, if you auction it off at 8 years, you recover $5,000. Your true cost on that vehicle was $17,400, right? Which is the original price plus the maintenance minus the recovery.
well, he's just giving an example. He can give to the department for that vehicle.
Yeah, 2008 Chevy, do you know which 652 is?
Still service.
Which department is it?
I think that was assessing.
Assessing. So then if you look at it at 10 years, 100,000 miles, that same vehicle now has 101,166 miles, and this is real data because we still have this vehicle in our fleet, so we can go back and see how many miles it had.
Are these a take-home vehicles?
I was waiting for that.
So 101,000. The maintenance cost increased by about $3,500. And your recovery went down because now the vehicle is older, got more miles on it. So the true cost, of the vehicle went up to about $23,400, so about $6,000.
And what department is that?
This is assessing, but this is just an
Both of them are
example.
assessing?
This is all comparing the same vehicle.
Oh, the same vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, you're talking about, wait.
So the same vehicle, if we're looking at it now, today,
I'm sorry.
today it's at 114,450 miles. The maintenance cost now has gone up to 11,300. So now if we were to dispose of this vehicle today, we're just getting junk value out of it. And you're looking at $27,750 with the total cost. So if we had disposed of it after 8 years, that's about $10,000, savings that we would have had on that vehicle. And this was without any catastrophic repairs, just routine maintenance and repairs. So the next slide, 15, just does that same comparison between 10 years, 100,000 miles, and 8 years, 100,000 miles. For vehicles, these vehicles are still in service, and it just gives you 3 more vehicles with that same data, so you can see the difference there. So for those 3 vehicles altogether, at 10 years, the cost of those vehicles would have been $92,700, and if we replaced them at 8 years, it would have been $51,500. Now some of these, the 99 Chevy Astro is 26, 27 years old, so you can imagine just what that cost is.
Can I just real quick?
Yeah.
One thing that's missing from here would be a per year cost, right? So on that top part, that 10-year, we're looking at over $9,000 a year for those 3 vehicles. The bottom one, we're looking at less than $7,000 a year. By replacing them more frequently.
So that's the 80 or 100,000 mile policy, but then there's there's exceptions to that, right? This vehicle right here is a 2010 Chevy Impala. And if you look at its maintenance records, first of all, it racked up a lot of miles early, and it racked up a lot of maintenance costs early. So really, we should have disposed of this vehicle in 2013 when it was 3-4 years old, instead of letting it run until now. And so this is the exception to that rule, and this is where the VRR comes in, where with the fleet management system, where it will account for that additional maintenance costs, and it will show us that, hey, this vehicle needs to go before that 80 years or 100,000 miles. The opposite is true as well. We might get an exceptional vehicle that doesn't give us any problems, and the VRR shows that it can keep running for 12 years, 14 years. I don't think that will take anything 20 years, but all right. And then based on that 80 years, 100,000 miles, we have this vehicle replacement plan. So it'll take us until about 31, based on these numbers, to dispose of everything that's older than 80 years, right? Then from 32 going forward, all of our assets will be 80 years or younger, 100,000 miles or less.
Do you mean 2032?
I'm sorry, yes, 2032. I'm reading off.
That's a long time.
2032, sorry. Good catch. And this is obviously, this is assuming the numbers remain the numbers of the fleet remain constant, which means there's no new positions created. So for example, if there's a new inspector position that gets created in building, and it's not a take-home vehicle, but it's still a fleet vehicle, we would need a vehicle for that inspector, right? So these numbers are based on no growth in employees, right? Now, standardization was another topic that came up in the previous meetings. We've prepared a draft standardization plan here, and so the way we're proposing to structure this is by vehicle purpose, right? So, for example, intracity pool vehicles, like planning might have, or assessing might have, engineering might have, those we're recommending that those should be compact SUVs, right?
So I'll pause you there for a second.
Yes.
So Chevy Equinox, is talking regular, or talking EV?
It'll depend on the usage of the vehicle, and we'll look at what the market is at that time. Whenever we're
Also the green piece, that, I know that's later on.
So if the EV is viable, we'll get it. So that applies for all of these. If EV or hybrid vehicles are viable, we will pursue them.
So a point that Councilwoman Bland and I think the mayor made also was, price points between Chevy brand and GMC brand. Now I can kind of get forward and Chevy being comparable. So when you go to GMAC, that's potentially different parts, more expensive parts. So is there a rationale as to why go from Chevy to GMC? I love Chevy.
So I think most of our purchasing for vehicles is done through MyDeal. And the MyDeal pricing really doesn't vary too significantly between the Chevys and the GMCs and the Fords.
What about parts and maintenance?
About the same.
About the same.
So that's the. And then if you go through, you'll see some of these vehicles, like the vehicles for plowing and that are involved with plowing or towing operations. Those will be the heavy duty trucks. We don't need right now. We have a heavy duty truck for coal, which is not necessary. That it's I don't know who approved it when, but
go back to the point of standardization. So for instance, assessing goes out with a city car and inspects the building to do the SEV or whatever. The planning department goes out where somebody's chopped down a tree or something. Several departments, they're just, to get from City Hall to a site in the city, they should be driving a tin can, as far as I'm concerned. The cheapest car, they don't need, it should be basic transportation. And I'm talking, it's a cost savings, that's all. I mean, they just need to get out and back. They're not going on a cross-country trip.
Mr. Mayor, I think the issue is, I think we all agree with what you and Councilwoman Bland stated. We have to document as part of the process what we do. I don't think there's a policy on how do we select a vehicle or not, and I think that's what we got to do. We've got to create a policy.
Yeah, historically there hasn't been.
And I think, and I hear you guys, I agree with you, and I think we've just got to ask for that policy that Councilwoman Bland had shared. Where was it from, ma'am?
Washington City.
Washington.
So Jeff has
Washington
prepared.
City.
Jeff has prepared a draft of a policy, but this isn't ready to share yet. We need feedback from you. We'll incorporate that in, and then probably work through committees and whatnot, and refine something.
Are we ready for just open comments, or are you done? I'm sorry. I should let you.
Well, I think
because I don't want to read.
This is what we're proposing. You could. Council might decide, hey, we don't want intercity pool vehicles to be compact SUVs, they should be compact sedans, then Austin and I can't drive them, so.
I think what I'd like for you to put, or consider putting in your policy, I would like for us to have fleet here for people to come in, drive their own car here, take a fleet, when it's work for the city. And I just want you to consider that, because then I'd ask what I think is missing from here. Not saying that it was asked, but I think we need to, I would like to know who all has a take-home vehicle, but then how often are they out on business doing that? And so, I mean, and I'm not saying you have that because, and I'm just going to tell you, tell me if I'm wrong. I would bet that the city, we have not kept mileage like we do with our expense reports. Like we have to tell you when we go from here to there. Quite frankly, I'd like to know what their mileage usage is. Because do we know if they're spending a whole lot of mileage on a weekend and it ain't city work? Then I'd like to, and I'm just throwing stuff out there. Then I'd like to know how many were called over the weekend. Have we done those type of analysis so that we can see if it's a need to have take-home vehicles? Because how many times are you called in on the weekend and all of that? And maybe you have it.
So Councilman, if you look at page 1 of the spreadsheet.
Okay.
So, for example, Teresa Young from the first row.
Okay.
Teresa Young, executive lieutenant. She's got a 2020 Ford Fusion. The current mileage on the Ford Fusion is 61,669. In 2023, there was she put on 12,442 miles. 2024, 10,475 miles. 2025, 9,579 miles. The purchase price of the vehicle was $21,524. That vehicle's been in one accident. That's not to say that the lieutenant has been in only one accident. The lieutenant might be a chief. Sorry. Well, yes, but the lieutenant might.
A lot of it is unknown.
But the lieutenant might have been in more vehicles, more accidents in a previous vehicle. This is just the number of accidents on the currently assigned vehicle.
So,
Right, and then the one-way commute distance is there as well. So her one-way commute is 21.5 miles. You can do some calculations and figure out, you know, of the 12,442 miles that she put in 2023, how much of those might be work-related versus,
Correct.
no, it's,
correct.
you know.
And that's the part, but like, okay, so I did see that mileage, I guess it wasn't, it just, and I get it, I'm not saying it's wrong, it just doesn't tell me where I was getting at. Like, I would like for us to kind of do a study, or and maybe we don't have to do it, but again, how much is done on their time versus the city's time, and then on the weekend, were they called out for city travel? And then my question to you is, who gets gas on campus?
Sorry, one more point I'd like to make here is, so that's why we've divided this up. So the emergency responders with take-home vehicles, right? So that's the first 3 sheets here. Those are people who are responding directly. So for example, our supervisors, if there's a tree down, they are going to the site of the tree directly.
I get that, but that's what you tell me. I would just say, I would still like it documented. I mean, again, I'm just saying, I'm not asking you to do that. But let me finish, because I'm ready to move off it, because I know that's a little too much. I'm just saying, it would be nice to know it. Because I'm just saying, but let me get this up, because I'm gonna forget. Can you ask the question, or do we know who all fills up their gas tanks on campus?
So in order to fill up, you have to have a vehicle card and an associated employee card. So it's all in the system. It's all...
That would have been nice for us to know who has that card.
Restricted access. So whoever's driving the vehicle will have the vehicle card, and if they're assigned that vehicle, then they'll use their employee fob plus the vehicle card to access the fuel source.
But do we know how often that's done? Because again...
Without that, you can't fuel up.
Essenburg tracks.
Well, no, what I'm saying is we don't. What I'm saying is we don't, because again, are we supposed to be paying for people's gas when they're personally traveling on the weekend? That's the kind of stuff that I'm asking. Are you looking at that to see? Because that's a good hookup.
What's the cost? What's the cost? More energy. I've seen some
well,
I've seen some electric cars parked.
Right. The chargers are not access restricted right now. They don't have that access system on them.
Anybody could just charge up?
On chargers. But the fuel is restricted to those vehicles that have the vehicle card.
I get
so
that.
I can't take my personal, even though I have a employee fob and all that. I can't take my personal vehicle and fill.
No. That's not what I'm saying. You take it, the city-owned car, provided car.
I get what you're
fill up, but is a lot of your mileage personal? You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And so this is where, it gets sticky when you're dealing with taxpayer dollars and you letting the cars go home. I hope people understand we have an obligation to our residents that pays the tax dollars, and when we see other services that they may want, we got people coming out, I want this road fixed. We don't have the money. This is something that if this, like for instance, I said this before on the call, our DE&I person, she has a car stipend. I'm just saying, that position title, one would have to say, but I know why you do it, for benefits. I'm saying the optics of it, the look of it. When I talk in my organization, we don't even give out cars anymore. The big dogs at Blue Cross do. You come in, you have to expense it out because of the fact that you need to justify where you're going. And if someone were to look at that name for that, and that's not for you all, I'm just talking. When someone looks at that title, one would say, why would we give the DE&I? And that's why I was saying you put it into the salary, because when doing that, it looks suspicious when someone looks at our budget to say, why would you pay that person a car stipend? I just would like for it to be moved for that reason. And I hope you guys understand that's what I'm coming from when we see that. But certainly we gotta fix that charging, because if that's the case, a resident can come up here, I don't know, because you could just drive in there.
Well, I tested my car.
You can do it. Oh,
So
there's-
maybe code put something on.
Yeah, maybe it is something.
Well, no, and then even with the mileage part, you don't know where the mileage, I mean, you saying that over 8 years it has this many miles, but where was it traveling? You know, I mean, if free come take my car.
All right, so in your example of a tree down and someone comes through, in their truck, do they have all the equipment necessary to take care of it? Or are they just going to assess it and then they have to drive back to the roundhouse?
home, you're
So-
saying?
Yeah.
So they have to assess the situation to determine the right equipment they need and the right staffing that they need, right? So that's where the supervisors are coming in. Now, if they didn't have a take-home vehicle, they're going in, either they're going in and getting the pool vehicle, or they're expensing that mileage, right, with the IRS. Some of them might need, for example, something to open a manhole, you know, so they might, but, you know.
Okay, so then the other question, going back to the gas, right, you need an employee car, you need your file, and then you also, that has to be worked, you know, so that has to be programmed, and then you need the vehicle card. So what's stopping, I'm gonna use you as an example, right? I don't wanna pick anyone else. Right, I say, hey, Abdul, I need to get gas for my car. I gotta go to a conference, right? So you give me your employee card and then your vehicle card. What's stopping me from using the gas?
And also have to give you the mileage on the city vehicle. Because if the mileage you enter is too far off, it's gonna throw an error saying that's not reasonable.
So there's more safeguards than just having those two.
So it knows it's for that car.
We gotta set up, they only get so many gallons per day.
Well, that's good.
And then it won't let you get gas.
Okay.
That's good to, and I know for me, I'm not trying to say no one has integrity, I know, I'm sorry. But I just, you know, it's just something we have to make sure.
Yeah, when we talked about the state card too, I don't know if I knew my daughter had a copy of the card.
I'm sorry. They've been waiting.
Oh,
Nancy.
I thought you pointed a bit.
No, I'm sorry.
Go no.
Me too, I know
You gonna take the shot first?
No, I'm good. I'm good. So,
Okay.
no, I wanted to ask for the goal of this exercise. Is it to understand what policies we want to implement? I'm just trying to understand, I mean, we talked about vehicle cars a few times, so I know that I've seen some of this presentation before, and now we're getting very detailed information about where we are. So I just wanted to know, what do you want the outcome of this to be?
So to your point, what I think I've heard my time here was that there's a couple of concerns. Number one, a policy on who should be eligible to receive a car stipend, a policy on take-home vehicles, or a process for, you know, should that even occur? Should we be having folks come here, pick up a car, if needed, use that car, then drop it back off and take their car home? And for some of those who are eligible for a car stipend, should we call it out as a stipend and just move it into a salary and eliminate that process? So we're not obligated as we replace people.
We have
And the third thing I think you want, or we want, is the consistency of models.
So, you know, I guess, what happens?
So if I may address that, please, one second.
You want to address what the goals are?
Consistency of models.
Okay.
So with my deal, I believe we're restricted to American made.
Yes.
Right. So we're restricted to American made. We always go through my deal purchasing that's competitively bid. We don't want to get more restrictive than that, other than the categories like we discussed. because then we can't take advantage of market fluctuations or deals that might come up and so.
Fair enough.
Understood. So I guess my question with accidents, because I am looking at some of the accidents and you gave us a breakdown from 2022 to 2026. So you roughly paid out $86,000 worth of accidents, right? And I saw some of them were chips, you know, windshields and things like that, but 66% of your money that you spent went to 4 accidents. So if I look at that and I'm looking at some of the dates and some of the, it looks like, are these vehicles sold out when we're talking about $20,000 in repairs?
So
Because
for-
you're not paying $20,000 for a repair, are you?
Well, so for example, the most recent was, the large one was Chief Thornton's.
Correct. And when was he hired?
This was soon after, but that one we repaired.
Last year?
It was not totaled because the value, you know, I mean, that was a Yukon, right? And so 20,000 compared to the value of the vehicle.
Okay. So, and I guess, was the accident while doing his job, or did he get, because I guess my question is, if we start seeing huge accidents with take-home vehicles and you're not in route of doing your job, what does that look like for this city, right? Is there a policy that says if you go over a certain amount while you're using your take-home vehicle during your personal time, are there some type of restrictions? And I only asked, and I wasn't trying to be funny or anything, but for someone to be here for a year and I see 20 grand and I'm thinking you totaled the vehicle out because you hydroplaned, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just asking what happens if it happens again, or what are your parameters in place so we're not spending exorbitant amount of money on accidents that are happening on people's personal time?
So one thing I'll say is accidents do happen. And if you look at pages 9 and 10,
okay,
you can compare the value of take-home vehicle accidents versus all accidents.
Okay.
So accidents happen even during routine business.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So,
Can I add to your answer to her? It's not me saying anything. Councilwoman Glenn, I was going to say, I think also the goal of this is that they have a policy they want to present to us, so it's for them to hear what all we're saying. So I was just going to add to that.
Okay, so you can build on the policies that you're
before they share it with us.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Banks Haynes, did you still have a question?
Yes. Okay, so I guess the first one was, can we standardize vehicles? And you said yes. Although, why do we need a vehicle for travel? And how many travel vehicles do we have?
so right now we have those Yukons, which are the police, usually the police, like, reserve vehicles. Correct. So we'll take those for travel to conferences and so on, if there's a larger group of employees going. So it's not something that we use a lot, but it's really just another pool vehicle.
But wouldn't it be more beneficial just to take a car allowance and you have 2 cars go?
It depends how many people are going, but
Yeah, we don't do one person per vehicle when we're doing travel. We use the Yukons because they can fit 4 or 5 people. So 4 or 5 people travel in that one vehicle as opposed to 5 vehicles
But
going.
how many people in a department go to a conference at the same time?
11.
Yeah, it's a lot of people that would attend, that makes sense. That makes sense to me, because you attending a conference with everybody taking their own car.
They can take a smart bus.
So how many vehicles do we have that are travel vehicles?
we really just use our pool vehicles right now.
Anything that's not electric.
Pretty much used, yeah. So anything that's available we can use. I don't know that we necessarily are going to have dedicated travel vehicles, but we want to make sure that we have sufficiently sized vehicles for travel when we need them.
And then have we looked at car allowance versus vehicles?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we need our standard vehicles when, car allowances.
So,
I mean, and that way we're just gonna get out of the vehicle business, and I mean, those individuals, example, if a tree is down and you need to take a truck with a camera, you can drive your vehicle to the yard, pick up the truck and go to this,
so
go
that's,
wherever.
that's an extra 20, 30 minutes to respond to a situation.
Well, I would think if it's a-
Depending on, I mean, a tree down,
Yeah.
sure, maybe it's not the end of the world, right? But a sewer backup, maybe.
But I would think that we also have our police and fire department that can be there until someone comes.
We got drones.
I don't know, it's just, I don't know how people feel on the car allowance.
Right. I mean, police and fire, like for sewer, what are they, you know, sewer backups, they.
Well, they can like block off the street until someone gets there, and if you're only talking 15 minutes, does that 15 minutes justify a car or a vehicle? I don't know. So, okay, so
I'd like to see what,
how can we, under the accident reports, you've got several on here that are like unknown. How can you not know what an accident is?
For example, when the chief's car was keyed, right?
When it was what?
When the chief's car was scratched up, that's an unknown. He came out, there were scratches on the car, that's an unknown.
Okay, okay, thank you.
It's funny though, on that one, it says unknown, but they knew where they were.
A criminal walked by and knew the chief was there and just got the scratch car, you know?
I don't know.
Yeah, and some of this goes back to, like I said, to record keeping, right?
Right.
It's just,
And I think we should be expensing their mileage. And I'd like to see a car allowance and get rid of the take-home vehicles.
For all take-home vehicles, like police and fire included?
No.
No, not police and fire.
And even not some other people too, you know.
So then,
But there'll be a vehicle here available if someone needs it.
so then you're talking about emergency management and DPW.
Well, there's more than emergency management and DPW on this list.
Pull it out.
just get one for each department, that's it. That's all they need.
I ain't forgot about you, man.
so police, public works, fire, emergency management, building, like you said, does not actually have take-home vehicles, facilities.
Facilities and parks and
Parks
rec,
and
yeah.
rec.
So exempting police and fire, all those others.
Those trucks, that's what.
Yeah, why can't they get a car allowance? I don't know.
Well,
I'm just.
this end of the table's talking about getting rid of car allowances, right?
I don't think,
Don't throw them in.
Coretta, did you say get rid of car allowances?
She said, review who gets them.
I think there's categories. I think
Okay.
for those who are, I think what I heard Pro Tem say, and I'm gonna let Pro Tem speak for herself.
Well, you say get rid of car allowances.
Other than Mr. Zorn,
Yeah.
the attorney, and the planner. Oh, sorry.
For the elections.
You don't take anything,
It's a
so I
take-
forget.
Well, all the
And
elections
the
are.
You should.
I disagree, I'm sorry, Mr. Clark.
Council doesn't get, everyone else but council gets.
I
So-
honestly just
so,
believe those.
I guess I'd like to know what people think about that. I mean, if I'm the minority, that's fine.
You saying the police, the
Not the
fire?
Department heads, and that's it.
Wait, who all are you saying, okay, let's do like this. Out of all of those that were just there, you're eliminating everybody from the fire, from under fire?
Or maybe, you know what, I have to look at the
Public
list
works,
again. Like,
emergency management, building, facilities, parks and rec.
well, like some of the directors of some of those the directors of the departments.
But doesn't building go out a lot?
They don't have take-home vehicles though, because
Right,
they're
that's
not
what I'm saying.
responding to any emergencies, so they're not,
I'm just trying to understand.
they don't have, so a lot of these,
I'm through, thank you.
Okay, I'm just trying to say what
These
she
take-home
said.
vehicles-
I'm saying, right, 'cause she says we're in agreement, I'm trying to see what we're trying to agree to.
these take-home vehicles are related to emergency response, right? So you have public works supervisors and superintendents, you have
Park
emergency
supervisor.
management, obviously, facilities, superintendents, who, if there's something going on after hours here, Parks and Rec, if something happens in the parks. And then these are the vehicles, fire, police, public works, that are more compensation than emergency response. Now, these departments are all emergency response departments, so their directors or chiefs have take-home vehicles.
So all of those are take home, the others aren't.
The others are as well.
Is that outlined in
They
the
are as
budget
well.
when we look at it?
The others are,
aren't as well.
yes.
Okay, that's a problem.
So these are
Take home.
take-home. So we have a total of 40 take-home out of
Right,
our.
that's what I asked her. Did she mean everybody from fire on down to not get a car?
No, the department.
Yeah, so she's
manager.
proposing, except for police and fire, everyone.
No, like Public Works, the director of the department would get a,
Okay.
What you get a take home.
I take you, I mean, I do it right now.
But you don't get a stipend.
I don't get a stipend.
but you
I
don't know what?
Really, frankly, my supervisors there's more value to them having a take-home vehicle. For me, it's a benefit. It's a perk. Yes, if there's a major emergency, I will come in, right? If there's a huge water main break, I'll come in. And there have been times I have. It's a handful of times a year I'll come in on an emergency. But the day-to-day emergencies, it's the supervisors and superintendents.
How many are
But
there?
what about a car allowance for you?
So those 13 vehicles under Public Works, those are all the supervisors and superintendents
Negotiating.
who
Okay, so
are
they're 12.
responding directly to the emergencies, right?
Okay, are you included in the 13?
No.
I'm included in the two over here.
Okay, so there are 13 that take home.
Yeah.
That
For
are
emergency
supervised.
response, yes.
Okay. But you're saying.
Keep in mind that we have 3, 4, 5 people on call.
So that's like.
Five people on call every day. You know, so we have
You know that Dan getting there, he's getting nervous.
I'm going to take a nap over here. Wait a minute.
We gonna take it out more.
now. Sorry, one sec. I'm sorry. The question came up: can I get an allowance instead? It would have to compensate for the benefit that the car provided, right? So to lease that vehicle, say 450, 150, 200, and the insurance, so on. So you add all that up, you're looking at 800 plus a month, right?
So you're saying if you take the car away, you want the value of the car now?
The benefit, yeah. That's the benefit to me. You have to compensate the benefit.
So,
I ain't say that. He can want them, he only gonna get so much.
That's what you gonna say, that then
You can want them.
Let's start with a baseline. You know, and I did a little research on this for the finance committee, but that meeting was canceled. And we have categories for take-home vehicles and vehicles. You have on-call individuals who are on call. You got operational emergency vehicles. And then you got service supervisors. And then you got normal work demand. So the point being that there are certain people who are on call and they have, I'm looking at take-home vehicles, they have take-home vehicles because they are on call. And so, as opposed to having a person, he can leave from his home and go straight to the incident, as opposed to going to the motor booth and picking up something in front of that. And then, those are about 4 or 5 categories that falls under the category of fleet management. And whoever your fleet manager, he probably knows this, but then too, some contracts have in the contract take-home vehicles. And then, I mentioned before, it's a marketing tool. This is part of nationwide where we're pulling people from, people with skills in or it could be Royal, Troy, anybody else. It's a marketing tool. We get them here because, I got to get a vehicle also.
And you can see that on the last page, on the last spreadsheet there. We did an informal survey of 15 communities. Only 2 of them don't provide anything.
Yeah, I think Warren is one of them, and offers nothing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Pontiac and Canton, and these 15, if you look at the last spreadsheet that we handed out there, the rest of them have either a stipend or a take-home vehicle. Most of them have take-home vehicles for their public works.
But after.
And this right here was, sorry, go ahead.
Southfield has a motor tube pool, definition of motor vehicles. And that definition is consistent with the whole universe of what the vehicles are. And we can be unique as we want to be. And that's the most important thing, but make sure it's consistent and it's not violating anything. But when we had certain people, when I looked at the police department had 14 vehicles, fire had, and public works had 14, and then fire had 8 or 9. There's some inconsistency there. And I think council, I know what we, I would like to see something standardized or take-home vehicle. How often, and they have a matrix, they have a formula. How often are you called to go and you get extra points for that? Do you have to be there? You get points for that. And there are different categories with respect to how best to get a take-home vehicle formula. There's a formula for, and I wrote this up and I was going to give it to I gave it to the finance committee. But we will usurp for this particular meeting. Now we're working from scratch. We're working from scratch. Can we develop something, and I can just give you the template that I found in the research, that you develop a take-home vehicle threshold, and if they have 4 or 5 categories, and if you don't hit one of these 4 or 5 categories, you have to use a motor pool vehicle. And the take-home categories were their own call, that's one. They have a rapid response, that's one. An individual has a rapid response. It is job related. Job related. Duties cannot be performed without a vehicle, so that follows that. And the work frequency. After hours, call out. So those are 4 categories. And if you don't hit one of those 4 categories, you will have to go to the motor pool to get a vehicle. So if we can obviously just develop a matrix, and clearly, if you're not a department head or Mr. Zorn, or if you don't hit one of those categories, you would have to go and actually use the motor pool vehicle. So can't we? And I did this just by my little at-home research. I'm sure the motor pool and you who are in public work can come up with a matrix that these are the things you got to hit to take home a vehicle. If you don't hit it, you go to the motor pool. And obviously, that is a decision to be made by council, because some people we have who are highly trained, and I happened to meet some of them when I was at your department who were going through certain things, and I know that some people took a job because in addition to salary, location, and the motor pool, the vehicle was that shielded them to come to it.
For sure.
Yeah, that was the deciding factor. So they came with for Southfield for the job standpoint. So, Mr. Chair, I'm not, because the little research I did was purely from my vantage point. I'm not a motor pool guy. I just know certain things about life, and I wrote this up. So can you get the motor pool to give us a matrix or something standardized that will indicate if you get either one of these, all 4 of these categories, you can get a take-home vehicle. If you're not, you got to use the motor pool. Motor booth.
We could definitely prepare something. I think there might already be something similar in here.
I was going to say, they literally already have that. They just have to label it by what you're saying.
Right.
We got to get it out of our...
And as long as it's there, you might have it, but it's not being utilized today. It has not been utilized. So we got to start utilizing it, and it will definitely streamline what's out there. And from a policy standpoint, you can always go back to that matrix. Say, Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jones, they fell in this category, and that's why they have the motor vehicle, that's why they have a take-home vehicle.
And one thing I'll say is, you, as part of this whole conversation and sort of change in policy or change in practice, you might also want to consider the grandfather, right? So there's certain positions or benefits that you might just have to keep until that person leaves and the next person then taking that position. And don't worry, I'm not here forever.
No, let me just answer
4 years,
that.
5 years.
Let me just answer that from some standpoint, just from a common sense standpoint. Whatever we come up with, we're not going to yank it away from somebody. And some people can be grandfathers. I've been in a company that, you know, they yanked grandfathers some bad habits. But they didn't want to use that person because of the value he or she brought to the table. So that's a doable. But the bottom line is we have to have a policy, and I shared it, my full little research with you. I shared it with the finance committee. So there's some little global things in there that if we come up with a policy, it's blessed by the powers that be in the council and or the finance people, and everything it looks normal. It's not tilted one way or the other.
Speaking of car allowances, this is a document that we received from the City of Farmington Hills. I believe MML prepared this for them as part of the compensation study. So on these are the 10 largest professionally managed cities in the state. And so Ann Arbor does not have a car allowance, and Wyoming does not. Well, I'd say they're short. So the rest of them, if you look at cities that do have a car allowance, you've got, we're the lowest out of all of these. You know, so
What's the highest?
the highest is 11,000. 11,000
Annually.
11,000. So just under 1,000 a month.
Okay.
So Pro Tem Hope, Councilwoman Hayes, and Councilwoman Banks.
Quick question though, because
And when they say zero car allowance, I don't know if they're giving them a vehicle instead.
yeah.
Warren, I just throw that under shot. Warren did not have a car allowance.
But Warren is not on this because they're not professionally, they're mayors, strong
Okay,
mayors.
I just throw that out there.
Okay, I was going to say, I just want to remind, again, they're listening for our policy for us to develop, and we talked about that, it probably should be shared in the example that Councilwoman Blaine gave us, but I'm going to use what you just stated as an example. When you said, I wanted to cover my insurance and all that, see, that's not what we're here for. We're not.
But that's what the benefit covers for.
That's you, that's for you to negotiate and your salary and all that. That is not for us to make sure that what we give you covers, because we all have to take care of that in our salaries, that's not, but I'm not saying it to respond, because we'll always disagree.
No, but I don't disagree, I understand that.
And
I think it's unfair to already have someone in the position and then you take that benefit.
And
away
as
from
I
them.
told you before, when you shared that information with your deputy, who then attacked me on it, what did I say to you? That I have never, no one here can say I ever said it's gonna be yanked. You misunderstood it, or you didn't hear me, and you relayed it incorrectly. Austin knows, I've always said, you can't take it away, you have to build it into your salaries. I never said take it away, ever. And you falsely have said that about me, I never said that. And we have to take it out because I think we never would have been in the place for a DEI person, I'm just sorry, to give that person a car stipend. You just don't. If that person, yeah, they'll take it because they love to see it. And I bet you anyway, they never had it before in any other jobs that they had.
All the department heads got it.
well, again.
All of them.
But then again, that was a new position too. It
But
was like-
that was, I'm using that because that one was a new position.
I know, but
and I've
they
been-
all,
It was a
they
new
all
position.
get it.
And I know, what I'm trying to say is we follow suit, doesn't mean it's right. And we've got to come out of that. But anyway, I'm one person, we don't have to do that. But I also was thinking in the documents, and if I missed it, let me know. What we haven't captured is the insurance cost.
Right. Which goes up.
John, you want to talk to them? Or self-insured?
We pay insurance like everyone else does.
Right, but I know, but what is it though? Are we able to quantify it or anything? I'm just wondering.
We can break it down.
Yeah,
I mean, basically, more cars, more
category on
costs.
a monthly finance report, insurance. I go through there and pull it out. What
I'm just saying it would have been, I was just wondering.
That's not gonna give the detail that she's asking for.
I mean, they should have some automotive. It's a big.
It's one insurance bill. It doesn't.
Well, and let me just ask this. This is my question. So it doesn't take into account people's personal driving record, or we just get it at a whole?
No, they do not ask.
That's what I was thinking.
No, they don't ask the mileage, they don't ask the drivers, that's us.
And they don't ask their record, driving record. Like these accidents or whatever, that doesn't, it may impact it if we make a claim.
Yes, yes.
Like it would. And then I think my final question is, those cars that are there as fleet, does it cover any employee, or do you have to put certain employees on a list to use it?
No, we do not have to put certain employees on the list. And when we say an accident impacts it, it's not like our insurance.
When we do it.
There's several factors: how long you've been with MMRMA, how large your planes are in general.
Okay.
So it's nothing like we think of, oh, I have a $6,000 accident, that's really going to bring my rate up. Not for us.
Okay.
When Northland Mall got caught fire, that brought our rate up.
Got it.
But that's what it takes to
in all
really
that.
impact
Okay,
it.
that's
And
good to know.
And there's other factors. How long you, like I said, how long you've been with MMRMA, that affects it.
And I guess what I'm hearing you saying, in this process, what we're doing here, that's irrelevant. We can leave that on the table.
I can get,
No, tell me, if that's, because I don't want to be bothered with that.
it's not a huge factor.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm good with saying, I see why it's not included. That's all. I was just wondering from that. So, I'm done. Thank you.
Well, I was just saying that you keep up, it's saying that, grandfathering in. I have a relative that worked for a major company and had a car allowance. The whole entire staff here, and because they had to do some site training, they had their own individual cars and then they had the company cars. In the company car, that person was the only person that could be in that car, and you could only use that car for work. You couldn't use it for personal travel or for anything else. But when the company started having problems, they started taking away the cars. And these are the same people that were working, doing the same job. And then it got down to the point where nobody had cars. And this is a major company. So what I'm saying is, because times change, and things do change, and they're changing here, so I mean, it's a lot of things that are happening. Then we have to look at too, like she said, justify, that's the key word here. And what used to be, that doesn't always have to stay the same. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but there are some things that are,
So one clarification I'd like to make is for example, our supervisors, the DPW supervisors, ARCs, I'm assuming as well, they're strictly home and work, right? In between, you go pick up some milk and so on. It's really at the director, chief level where there's more personal use.
and nobody else could drive the car either.
No.
Nobody else. But when the company did investigate that was happening, the cars were taken. So I mean, just to put stipulations. I'm not saying that. I don't know a lot about it. That's why I like to know questions, because I don't know. Because I've seen some things that were questioned, but I didn't know what I was looking at either. So I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything, but I do have a right to question and to ask. So we'll know for sure the answers,
So Abdul, what you just were talking about for take-home vehicles. So I take home a vehicle, and I am not allowed to have my wife in there, any of my kids in there. It's strictly work and back. No additional stops. It's in the contract.
But who's monitoring you?
I was gonna say, do you sign anything to that? Do we
I was a
have-
Boy Scout.
So yours is just strictly for you, like you said, that makes sense.
Yes.
I mean, something like that makes sense.
It's written in a written policy that take-home vehicles should be driven over the most direct route, taking into account road and traffic conditions. Clearly, incidental personal use shall mean use does not involve additional travel or expense to the city and does not create an impression that the vehicle is being used for seasonal reasons, including but not limited to shopping, recreation, or transportation of family friends. So it's something written already in the city policy.
You can use a tractor.
And I just duplicated that. And if you guys would just come up, come up with something why you want to give people a take-home vehicle, because it's out there. I found it. It's not in our policy.
It is in our policy.
Okay, all right.
Our supervisor signed it just last year.
And start implementing it. If these four or five things happen, you get a take-home vehicle. If not, you usually the pool, the motor pool for a vehicle. You drive to work with your personal car and go to the motor pool, and then go to your other place. So I think that's a doable definition, and so we're not hurting any personality. Those individuals who are not, they will get hit. They can be grandfathered in until the change of time, or they die, or something.
No, not until they die.
I mean, that's reality. Somebody's gonna die. I won't die. Everybody's gonna die.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. There's a lot of work that went into this. I hope you made some sense out of what we said, because I'm so confused. But you said you have a policy. I mean, maybe you can tweak it based on some things that were presented to us, and hopefully it will work. And again, I just wanted to remind council that all the department heads have a car allowance stipend. If that was even in the budget.
Directors and all deputies.
I'm sorry?
All directors and all deputies.
All directors
Who
and all
don't have a
deputies.
vehicle have a car allowance. I don't have a car allowance, I have a vehicle.
Right, that's,
So,
But we also need to, I think, revisit the amount of the car allowance, like you're saying, it's significantly lower than our peers.
Yeah. The other thing that's not really addressed with that is the mayor, the clerk, and the treasurer get a car allowance. And that is not set by the LOCC, and probably should be. And when council brings up vehicle allowance for council, that should also be brought to the LOCC.
can you check back several years, might be more than several years, because I thought it was included at one point.
It may have been,
Way
but
back when it was included.
I know during my time here, the car allowance has not been brought before the LOCC.
Well,
what about the telephones?
Yes, that's another thing. The telephone stipend that council receives did not go through the LOCC.
Well, it's my understanding that the local compensation commission only considers wages, not other equalities.
So it says compensation, right?
So now we talk about us?
Well, if you make it part of compensation, then that's a different conversation.
Well, that's what the phone stipend, that's compensation, that's why it's taxable.
No.
Same with the car allowance.
And the cars.
Statute speaks to wages solely. But all,
Of course. So I'm not sure, is this an ask, or we just talking just roundabout? Can we finalize on where we're going with this? Because we're kind of spinning right now.
he has a policy letter.
Do you want to talk to your policy at this point, or is it still a work in progress?
We're still working on it. We're going to add some of the stuff that we discussed today.
So let me ask this, so we have we've talked about this enough, should we just wait to have this as a discussion topic at the COW on May 4th?
As long as we get it before, so we can.
Review and.
The policy, I don't think we need all this other information. We have paper copies.
Okay.
Let's do it in June. June's
But
coming.
that's going to be past budget season.
Oh, we're gonna
Well, no, we do amend the budget.
No. We do part of the budget maybe?
We'll just
We generally, we have 4 days scheduled, we only
Yeah.
do is use 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I guess it depends on the house, because even.
So,
it's at 10 o'clock now.
yeah, we need to stop this right now until we get the policy. Yes, sir.
So that policy is not going to cover the vehicle stipends to directors and deputy directors. So what do you want to do about that?
So I thought the recommendation that I'm hearing, I'm not sure if we're voting on it, is that we're not gonna eliminate it, but move it to salary.
Okay, so,
We should.
We should talk about it.
Yeah, talk about it, yeah, because it's a change, and we have to gradually bring the change in.
Why don't we talk about it when they bring the policy back?
Yeah, that's what.
We have to see where we are with the budget.
Yeah.
Which here, what do you present?
All good, so.
first regular meeting in May.
First of it.
The chair will entertain a motion, go in closed session.
So
It's been properly moved by Councilwoman Haynes, supported by Council President Pro Tem Hogue. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, can you please call for a roll call? Only one.
Just 1 second, sir. It's not a count, this is a regular meeting.
Yeah, say yes.